Hey guys, tonight we're slipping into silk slippers and tiptoeing into a 12th century dance rehearsal where the stakes are higher than your last Zoom meeting glitch. Picture this, you're in Aquitaine's chilliest castle hall candle. Wax drips slower than courtly gossip, and one wrong step could get you demoted from courtier to cabbage peeler. Yeah, turns out medieval nobles had about as much chill as a DMV line on Monday. And spoiler, these dances were less Disney ballroom and more survival gymnastics with better costumes. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Shout out where you're watching from and the weird time it is there. Seriously, some of y'all are up at 3 a.m. composting eggshells or whatever. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Cold stone nips through your slippers as you enter the practice hall, each breath making visible ghosts in the air. Torchlight throws jagged shadows, shapes that flinch when you blink. Somewhere high above the squeak of a weather vane protests the wind's insistence. You're 721 years too late, but the dust still smells like ambition and wilted roses. Fun fact, actual medieval dancers rubbed goose fat on their feet to prevent blisters, which worked about as well as you'd imagine. Historians still argue whether these rehearsals were about art or just flexing wealth through fabric consumption. Your toe catches a groove worn into the floor, a century of nervous pivots fossilized in limestone. From the shadows, a bow drags across violin strings. The note wobbles like a drunk noble trying to curtsy. 4 more players tune up, creating the sonic equivalent of a cat walking on a lute. Someone behind you mutters about checking the window latches with suspicious urgency. Ah yes, the original Irish goodbye. You half expect a Discord notification to ping from the rafters. But no, just a bat arguing with a tapestry. A hand shoves a cup into yours, liquid, so bitter it makes your earlobes sweat. For the nerves, hisses a girl in headdress so tall, it's basically architectural. Turns out it's just oversteeped chamomile medieval Xanax with a splash of something that smells like existential dread. You glance at the murals, knights and ladies, frozen mid-frolic. One knight's face looks weirdly like your high school math teacher, judging your footwork from beyond the grave. Light bleeds from violet to bruised gold. Sunset doing its best moody tick-tock filter. The dance master's cane cracks against stone. The room snaps to attention like me realizing I left the stove on. His cloak sweeps the floor, collecting every speck of dirt and disappointment. We begin with the saltarello, he announces, because of course it's got a name that sounds like a cursed pasta dish. Little known fact, some manuscripts suggest lords bet on dancers like racehorses, but we don't talk about that. First position feels like you're imitating a stork waiting for Uber Eats. The violins start. Their rhythm has beef with your heartbeat. You're pretty sure the guy next to you is humming the Shrek soundtrack, but history won't prove it. When the master's back turns, someone slips a carrot to the fireplace hare. Guess even Gothic ambience needs its snack emergencies. Mid-spin, you lock eyes with a stone gargoyle. Its smirk says it's seen 17 generations of teenagers flub this exact move. Your sash unravels, dramatic slow-mo, but miraculously knots itself before hitting the floor. The candles flicker approval. Or maybe it's the draft from someone escaping their third marriage proposal. Floorboards creak a warning. The wood remembers every misstep ever made here. You wonder if ghosts critique posture or just binge-watch haunt whatever. A sneeze explodes from the minstrel's corner, and suddenly everyone's studying a stain on the ceiling like it's the Holy Grail. You count 3, 6, 9 heartbeats before the dance master growls from the cross step. And this time, less dying swan, more person who's danced before. The last daylight retreats, taking with it any mercy the room might have had. Your silk slippers shush against marble, each step a secret told too loud. That ivory sash keeps slipping, its gold threads drinking the sunset like smuggled wine. Across the hall, a trio practices bows, their necks craned, as if smelling phantom roses. One misses the cue, knees hitting stone hard enough to make you wince. The sharp laugh comes from your left, a nobleman's son leaning against a column, but court manners snap into place, his mirth dissolving into a cough-mumbled apology. Marble sucks warmth from your soles you'd kill for wool socks. Ahead, candle glow licks gilded foliage carved into the walls, grapevines tangled with herons. 17 candles. You count melted wax pooling like amber scars. Historians still argue whether these dances were love's language or just noblemen flexing in slow motion. Your grandmother swore the best dancers plotted betrothals mid-spin, a blend of lust and land deeds. The viol's player tests a string, a sound like cats debating. You remember the old trick, step, where shadows hide scuffs on your hem. Someone's fan clatters, a servant dives to catch it midair. Linen underskirts hiss warnings as dancers pivot, fabric layers conspiring to trip you. Fun fact, troubadours here in Aquitaine invented the side-eye, or at least perfected it during endless love ballads. Your partner approaches stiff as a ledger keeper. His gloves are suspiciously clean, either fresh from the tailor or borrowed. Palms up, fingers curved, a gesture cribbed from harvesting prayers. The dance master insisted gloves stayed on germ theory's great-great-grandparent was just a twinkle in some Italian's eye. Someone's perfume swings by cloves and paranoia. You catch a whiff of roasted almonds drifting up from the kitchens. Your stomach betrays you with a growl. 3 quick breaths, time to rotate partners again. The next man smells of pine resin and panic. His thumb brushes your wrist like a mouse testing trap springs. A maidserve aunt adjusts your sash, her fingers nimbler than yours. They used leech paste for blisters, she whispers, a relic from when court jesters doubled as healers. You tuck that horror away, preferring the sting of pride. Windows blush dusk red now, shadows stretch long as court gossip. Last week's practice left your ribs bruised from overzealous dips. Tonight's goal: exit without knocking over a candle stand. The lute launches into a pavane, one you've practiced 47 times. Muscle memory takes over, knees bending, as if settling into a bath. Across the floor, a lady's sleeve snags on a wall sconce, pewter leaves tugging at silk. She pivots, seam tearing louder than a drunk minstrel. No one reacts, except the dance master's twitching eyelid. Your turn comes, a spin that nearly unravels your braid. The nobility clap, polite as tombstones. By the far arch, a page boy juggles honeycakes, his smirk brighter than his buttons. You'd trade your pearl necklace for one sticky bite. The dance drags on a moth's lifespan, condensed into toe-crushing formality. When the music halts, your shoulders drop, relief sinking deeper than any curtsy. 14 minutes until the next drill, enough time to ditch the slippers. You fold onto a bench, its carvings gnawing your thighs. Someone offers a water skin. The drink tastes of metal and rosemary. 7 swallows, you're a camel, preparing for desert. The nobleman's son from earlier stumbles, past his sash, now dangling like a surrender flag. A servant lights fresh tapers, their wicks sucking air like reverse drowning. You press a palm to the floor, cool stone throbbing with decades of stomped rhythms. Some say the marble here was traded for 600 sheep, though math was never the jongleur's strong suit. Footsteps approach. You rise, blisters screaming feudal oaths. The dance master scans the room, a hawk auditing sparrows. His cane taps once. Showtime. Arms lift as one, the ensemble mirroring your stance like gilded puppets. Breath catches in your throat, your 90% nerves, and 10% sweat-soaked linen. The lute begins its plucked notes, skittering across marble like dropped pearls. Your left foot glides forward, precisely 3 handspans. As the master drilled, someone's fan snaps open in the gallery, a sound as welcome as a fart in chapel. Half-remembered steps take over, knees bending at the greeting of the smirking duke position. Your partner's palm hovers inches from yours, close enough to feel the heat of their anxiety. Fun fact: medieval dancers often formed circles to confuse malicious spirits, or maybe just to hide their clumsy neighbors. The nobleman's son from earlier wobbles, his elbow jabbing your ribcage. A dozen embroidered hems swirl, a kaleidoscope of stags and pomegranates. A misstep cracks through the hall, your heel catching on a warped floorboard. You freeze, the world narrowing to the blister on your little toe. But the lute surges, its player improvising a flurry of notes loud enough to drown sin. Muscle memory yanks you back into line, a marionette pulled by forgiving strings. Historians still argue whether these dances ended with covert kisses or just covertly wiped armpits. Shadows cling to the ceiling beams, carved falcons watching your every stumble. Your sash slips again. The damned thing secretly hates you. Across the room, a page boy muffles a sneeze into his sleeve, etiquette's triumph over biology. The dance master circles his cane ticking against stone like a spider's legs. You switch partners, new gloves, same clammy grip. Apologies, mumbles a red-faced baron's daughter. Her stomp on your foot was definitely intentional. You counter with an accidental elbow to her brooch. Revenge sparkles in her side-eye, a troubadour-worthy glare. Someone whispers that egg whites polished these floors, a quirk that explains both the shine and the stench. Your soles skid slightly. Maybe they used eel slime instead. The ensemble pivots, a human tide, obeying the lute's pull. Your neck strains to face forward. That headdress feels like a cart horse is sitting on your scalp. Ahead, a stained glass Judith beheads Holofernes, his ruby blood glinting in candlelight. You wonder if the dancers ever staged that scene mid-pavane. Probably not enough graceful hand gestures. A twirl brings you face to face with Sir Sweaty Palms, his tunic's lace collar wilting. His breath smells of garlic and existential dread. You both fumble the underarm spin, his sleeve swatting your nose. The lute's flourish hides your snort, music as co-conspirator. 3 more couples botch the move, solidarity in failure. Glimpsed in a mirror panel, your reflection resembles a startled stork. 18 years of lessons evaporate. You're just a bag of bones in fancy rags. The dance master's gaze burns your neck, a silent critique sharper than any blade. Memorize the patterns. He'd warned, or become court comedy between jousts. The final formation's a disaster. 3 dancers collide like drunken septuagenarians. Someone's pendant flies off, skidding into the darkness beyond the candles. The music halts, the silence pricklier than a hedgehog's hug. A servant retrieves the jewel, their face blank as fresh parchment. Again, barks the master, because perfection is a myth that won't die. The ensemble groans, a chorus of aching souls and bruised egos. But the lute player's fingers dance anew, a mercy as tender as it is relentless. His cane strikes stone, 3 cracks that hush even the lute's murmur. You pivot, heels grinding yesterday's wax into the floor. Posture, he growls, a single word that bankrupts your confidence. He's all edges, iron gray beard trimmed for battle, shoes polished with crushed beetles. Fun fact, Renaissance dance masters often doubled as spies. Court gossip flowed smoother than any galliard. His glare finds the baron's daughter, her accidental stomp, now a capital offense. The allemande begins in the heart, he intones, though your heart's currently in your boots. Palms up, fingers curled, as if cradling dove eggs. A nervous giggle escapes the page boy. The master's cane points like a dueling pistol. Silence follows, heavy enough to press your collarbones into the stone. Someone's stomach growls, an unpaid soloist stealing the moment. He demonstrates the turn, his 80-year-old hips putting yours to shame. The motions all spirals. Imagine wringing out a sopping wet doublet mid-dance. Your attempt resembles a chicken avoiding the stew pot. Again, he says, each syllable a chip from Michelangelo's marble block. Historians still argue whether these drills prevented wars or just caused small rebellions between partners. A clicker emerges from his sleeve, dried bird bones strung on wire. Quirk alert. Some masters used thrush beaks to count beats. This one favors swallows. The clack, clack, clack herds you into formation, human chess pieces sweating through velvet. Your shoulder brushes a tapestry, moths fluttering out like fleeing courtiers. The scene depicts Charlemagne dancing, his crown askew, a cautionary tale in wool. Eyes on your partner's brow, he corrects, because direct gaze might spark actual human connection. Your new partner's breath smells of spiced wine and panic. Together, you mimic grace, two brooms propped in a closet. The lute sighs, its player nursing blisters under silk wraps. You try not to envy the blind musician's freedom. His cane halts you mid-step, a hair's width from your shin. The knee lifts, not drags, he mutters, as if disciplining a disappointing squire. You obey, muscles screaming curses your tongue dare not. Across the hall, a lady-in-waiting yawns into her coif, fabric crinkling like distant thunder. The master's nostrils flare. He'll remember that. A servant rolls a barrel of vinegar water across the rear stench, cutting through perfume. They say Joan of Arc once danced here, her armor left dents in the floor. You glance down, only scuff marks and someone's lost earring. The master snaps your attention, snaps tighter than a crossbow string. He recounts a leaner of Aquitaine's legendary footwork. Her vault could outspin a hurricane. His tone softens the closest he gets to poetry. You picture her, a whirlwind in silk, politics disguised as pirouettes. Your own spin sends a hairpin flying. It stabs a minstrel's shoe. The apology dies under the clicker's merciless cadence. Scarlet threads dangle from his cuff, relics of 1,000 corrections. Each tug meant straighter, slower, less like a drunken plowman. His own teacher allegedly used live eels to demonstrate fluid motion. You're grateful for the cane, mostly. A sneeze hijacks your curtsy, the scandal of the century. Night deepens, candles drown in their own wax. The master examines a dancer's hands, calluses deemed too peasant rough. He prescribes almond paste and silent shame. Your blisters hum in solidarity, tiny vespers of suffering. Final drill, the reverence, a bow that bends time itself. His critique, less collapsing scarecrow, more weeping willow. The moon watches through high windows, a disinterested critic. As the lute falters, his cane lifts, a conductor silencing the world. Tomorrow, he says, a threat wrapped in silk. The word lingers, blisters, and all as apprentices scatter like spooked pheasants. The departing apprentices' footsteps fade, leaving you alone with the sputtering torches. A servant drapes a black cloth over the lone mirror. Its silvered eye blinked shut. Click-clack of hobnails on stone signals the candle-bearers, their task sacred as any sacrament. 12 beeswax pillars roll in on a copper cart, each taller than the page boy pushing it. Fun fact, a single pound of this wax required 60,000 worker bees. Your blisters throb in solidarity. Wicks touch flame, golden halos eating the gloom. Shadows shrink, then surge as candles bend in some unfelt draft. The hall becomes a ship adrift, walls swaying, timbers creaking. Your shadow stretches sharp against the far wall, an elongated stranger, mimicking your every twitch. Historians still argue whether medieval ballrooms dimmed lights for romance, or to hide noblemen's clumsy feet. A new servant arrives, her apron pockets bulging with candle ends. She's a sculptor kneading wax, snapping off drips with thumbnail precision. Quirk alert. Vicomte de Bordeaux allegedly burned mousetail tallow candles believed to ward off gout. These flames smell sweeter, honeyed smoke curling into the rafters. You count 97 candle stubs embedded in the central chandelier, a nervous habit from 3 nights' practice. The master's cane lies abandoned, its shadow a spiteful exclamation point on the floor. You approach, half expecting it to lunge. Your own silhouette swallows it whole, a petty victory. Somewhere above, the tapestry Charlemagne squints through wolf-red eyes. His dance partner's face, eaten by moths centuries back. Candlelight softens the wall tapestries, blood-red battles fading to peach. One scene shows a king and bear pawing at the same lute. Historians insist it's metaphorical. Your neck prickles the master's ghostly scowl, or the wax's heat, doesn't matter. Posture straightens automatically. A drip escapes a candle's flank, molten wax crawling down like amber sap. It pools around a dried violet someone dropped during the allemande. Courtly love fossilized in real time. Your shadow mimics the drip, stretching thin toward the door. Traitor. The page boy returns, dragging a 3-legged stool for trimming wicks. His hands shake. He's new enough to fear the dark. Trimmed ends fall into a bronze dish. Click, click, click. You recall the dance master's clicker, how its swallow's bone clatter lives in your joints. They kept whale oil lamps here last winter, the boy mutters. Smelled like burnt hair. You grimace. He nods at the candles, better none. Better for whom? The bees died mid-dance. Flames bend eastward, a hidden draft from the crypts below. Your shadow wavers, knees buckling in pantomime exhaustion. Harsh mistress, this silent partner, demands perfection, offers no corrections. You mirror its bow chin up, ribs aching. No master needed here. The servant woman coughs, a sound like parchment tearing. She's found a half-melted candle stub shaped like a bishop's mitre. Shrugs, tosses it into her salvage pot. Tomorrow, it'll warm some scribe's ink, unaware it once illuminated pirouettes. Your shadow grows a second head, the candle-bearer passing behind. Together, you're a pantomime beast, a two-backed creature from bestiaries, one misstep away from collapse. The page boy giggles, catches himself, flees with his stool. Alone again, candlelight rewrites the room, gilding dust, motes into phantom fireflies. You reach out, they dance through your fingers. The master would have caned you for such whimsy. But he's gone, and the flames keep time now, their flicker, a softer metronome. A bead of wax lands on your wrist, sharp sting, then nothing. You peel it off, skin beneath blushes pink. Newest soldier in your blister army. Across the hall, your shadow nurses its own invisible wound. Twins in silent solidarity, the easternmost candle gutters, dying breath swirling smoke into Gallic curses. Its companions burn brighter, devouring the extra air. You memorize the pattern. 17 flames still standing. One bowed like a weary sentry. No one comes to relight it. Floorboards creak, cool air licks your ankles. The door opens just enough to slip through. Your shadow hesitates, stretches long and thin through the gap, then snaps back to heel. Loyal after all. For now. 3 bodies converge, elbows as diplomatic as warhammers. You catch a flailing wrist. Its owner mutters, thanks through clenched teeth. The lute player stifles a giggle. It emerges as a snort. From the spiral turn, the master repeats, his cane sketching arcs in the air. Quill calligraphy becomes fisticuffs, limbs tangled like yarn after a kitten's rampage. Someone's sleeve tears, a sound like parchment unstitched. Standard 15th century formations required precise spacing, 6 hand lengths between partners. You currently share 3. Your left foot debates ownership of a floorboard with a courtier's right. The violinist plucks a string, testing. Notes skitter across the vaulted ceiling, spooked starlings. Duke Henry's infamous chicken ball incident comes to mind. Quirk alert. He once rehearsed with live poultry, claimed birds, taught natural grace. You'd take clucking over this human chaos. A partner grips your shoulder, steering you past a collision. Her brooch snags your hair. 13th century garnet meets 21st split ends. Historians still argue whether live animals attended rehearsals, though peacock manure traces in Strasbourg's dance manuals suggest something. The lute resumes, a melody meant for feet, now mangling toes. Your trio resembles wind-blown scarecrows, limbs at wrong angles, dignity in tatters. The master's cane taps a triple-time curse. The spiral is a falcon's ascent, not a drunk badger's stagger. His metaphor dies midair. Someone's heel finds a dropped hairpin, a metallic yelp. You're gasping now, half from exertion, half strangled laughter. Courtly protocol forbids giggling, which explains the odd wheezing sounds around you. Sunlight glints off the soloist's sweat-beaded brow. She's gone full martyr. Floor wax works against you, a treasonous slickness beneath satin soles. The ensemble's collective shuffle sounds like bread dough being punched. From the gallery, moth-eaten tapestries judge your technique, tasseled edges quivering in mock horror. Your partner's perfume shifts, cloves to panic sweat. A misdirected spin nearly topples the candle rack. 17 flames tremble, casting 70 dancing shadows. The page boy watches, wide-eyed future blackmail stockpiling behind his grin. The turn ends with hands raised, not clutching at air, like drowning sailors. The master's voice cracks, a first. His reputation frays with each fumbled step. Someone whispers, "At least we're not the 1491 Bordeaux cohort." Legend claims their final rehearsal ended with a chandelier crash and one fewer tenor. The lute falters, musician distracted by his own survival instinct. 3 spins later, you're facing the wrong partner, a silver-haired lord who mouths "Christ, preserve us." His breath smells of mulled guilt. The violinist invents a new chord somewhere between a sob and a scream. Your slipper finds a wax blob, congealed resignation from Section 5. It clings like a jealous lover. The master's cane halts mid-swing, a shepherd's crook reigning in chaos. Silence crashes down. The spiral, he begins, eyelids fluttering like a saint beset by visions, is not. Words fail. Floorboards creak 97 times before he exhales. Begin the pavane instead. Murmured protests rise. Pavanes require precision. More disaster fuel. Sunset stains the western windows, apricot light catching the dust of your collective disgrace. Your shadow curtsies mockingly, all sharp angles and misplaced sass. The chickens might have done better. Hands relearn positions, palms hovering, never touching. Duke Henry's foul students at least pecked in rhythm. You count 6 heartbeats, then the strings surge. First step. Second, lute strings weep tiny wooden tragedies. Third, someone's knee pops, a cannon shot in the hush. The master grips his cane like it owes him coin. By the 7th measure, frost forms on your collar, sweat meets evening chill. The soloist's braid unravels, silk ribbon slithering to the floor. No one stoops to retrieve it. 3 steps from the spiral's end, voices rise in the corridor. A door creaks, cold air slithers in like an uninvited critic. Shadows stretch, distort, briefly transforming your trio into giants. The moment passes. Your hands slip apart, blisters protesting. The master's cane strikes stone. From the spiral turn, silver light spills through the eastern windows. Checkered patterns crawl up your sleeves like climbing ivy. The court's crest glows, its embroidered lion now swimming in star-speckled silk. 17 years of dukes commissioned this tapestry, their vanity stitched in silver thread. You're just trying not to trip over metaphor and marble. Moonbeams expose every flaw, the dust on your hem, the tremor in your 6th position. Medieval dyers prized silver thread for mimicking moonlight on fabric. Your grandmother's sweat-stained samplers never mentioned that. A stain here could bankrupt a peasant, though tonight's real crime is your posture. Shadows stretch the lion's jaw teeth, grazing your shoulder. Folklore claims full moon rehearsals make dancers forget steps. Tonight's flubs feel like cosmic sabotage. Your partner misjudges a turn. His elbow whistles past your ear. The crest's embroidered stars seem to pulse in time with your pulse. Not a tapestry, the master snaps, though no one spoke. You're dancing with ghosts now. Historians still argue whether night practices were common or just poetic license in manuscripts. The lute's minor chords suggest someone's betting on historical accuracy tonight. You pivot, starlight catches the soloist's earrings. 17th century Aquitaine adored pearls, assuming they weren't stolen from Venice. Hers flicker like snooping eyes. Someone's knee buckles, a domino effect of imbalance. The lion's embroidered paw ripples as 5 bodies lurch sideways. Cold air nips your nape, moonlit drafts, love, uninvited entrances. Floor wax hardens, no longer slippery, just spiteful. The master's cane taps faster code, for I regret every life choice since breakfast. Your heel grinds, a fallen star-shaped sequin into the stone. A misplaced hand brushes the tapestry. Centuries-old silk whispers a warning. 13 lords financed this thing. Their names rotted off, but their guilt lingers. You half expect the lion to roar. It settles for a glare stitched in periwinkle. The ensemble frays like old rope, elbows jutting, ankles wobbling. Someone's underbreath curse rhymes with Peacock Duke Henry's avian alumni. Strike again. Silver light magnifies the sweat on your collarbone. It's basically a Chanel ad gone wrong. A moth dive bombs the soloist's updo. She doesn't flinch. Prosopagnosia of the insect world. It mistakes her jeweled hairpin for the moon. You envy its confidence. The master's patience unravels one sigh at a time. 3 rotations west. Your trailing foot snags a warped floorboard. The lion's constellation mane seems to roll its embroidered eyes. 1795. The year they replaced the original crest after someone spilled Rhenish wine on its paws. The current version lacks forgiveness. The turn, the master begins. A cloud smothers the moon, plunging the room into momentary dark. Someone gasps. You blink, light returns. 6 dancers face the wrong cardinal directions. The lute's final note hangs, a question mark in a minor. Even the tapestry lion looks baffled. Adjust, the master growls. You do. Your sleeve catches the light, checkered moonlight, now striping your forearm like a prisoner's mark. Historians love arguing about those 14th century dance diagrams. Were they instructions or bitter satire? Tonight's evidence leans toward satire. The soloist's shadow mocks her, elongated and jagged on the far wall. She corrects her stance, chin high, ribs trembling. Her discipline could outlast the stone beneath you. You wonder if the original seamstress hid blasphemies in the lion's thread count, then stop wondering. Overachiever. Midnight approaches. The stars outside sharpen their positions. Someone yawns, contagious as the plague. The master's cane freezes midair, his silent scream etched in oak grain. 17 breaths pass. The lute player plucks a single string, testing the room's will to live. You count floor cracks instead of beats. 16, 19, 30. Arithmetic joins choreography on tonight's pyre of dignity. A bat swoops through an open archway, darts above the tapestry lion in a flurry of squeaks. Even the master flinches. 15th century pest control involved cats. You mutter too quiet for consequences. The bat loops a furry comma in the night's sentence. Silver light etches its shadow onto the crest. Now the lion has wings. Someone snorts. The master's eyelid twitches, a metronome of resentment. Your blistered heel grinds into the floor pane sharp as the stars above. The original hall builders mixed crushed pearls into the mortar, status symbols turned foot shredders. You make a mental note. Thank dead nobles later. The ensemble regroups, elbows retracted, jaws clenched. Moonlight resets the scene, erasing the last 7 minutes of shame. The lute takes a deep breath. 1 step. 2. The lion's starry mane trembles, whether from draft or disdain. You'll never know. Your shadow hesitates, then commits to the turn. Your trailing foot snags a warped floorboard. The creak echoes grandmother's voice describing her first ball. Versailles gets all the press, but Aquitaine's hidden ballrooms birthed the beret. She swore the steps felt lighter under low timber ceilings. Your knees beg to differ. Dust motes swirl where your slipper disturbed the boards. They used Burgundian oak here, so dense termites allegedly starved mid-chew. The original builder hid his initials under the northeast corner. Or was that his mistress's? History corrodes gossip into fact if you wait long enough. A crack splits the air. Half the ensemble freezes. 16th century, footmen sprinkled sand on floors to prevent slipping. Tonight's grit feels more vengeful. Your blisters have opinions about progress. The master glares. You're suddenly fascinated by a ceiling beam's wormholes. Grandmother's tailies resurface, less about technique, more about stolen kisses behind tapestries. She claimed dancers sewed rosemary into hems. For luck, your generation gets blisters and protein bars. Old floorboards groan under a spin, each plank a frozen scream from 1723's spring ball. Your heel catches again. Same stubborn board. Archivists found love letters wedged between these planks. 19 in all, addressed to the wrong wives. Historians still argue whether they're evidence of infidelity or medieval fan fiction. The master's cane slams down, speculation evaporates. Faint lavender lingers in the wood, centuries of crushed herbs under dancing feet. Versailles banned floral scents in 1689 too peasanty, but Aquitaine clung to tradition like a drunk to chandeliers. You inhale decay and grandeur. It's basically history's armpit. A splinter snags your silk. They used to burn warped boards for warmth. Now we martyr our souls to preservation. The soloist kicks a stubborn nail back into hiding, an archaeologist's future headache. Your grandmother would have yanked it out with her teeth. Moonlight washes the eastern wall, exposing a child's scribble on the wainscoting. 3 horses, or very ambitious sheep. Carbon dating claims it's from the hall's first renovation. Mistakes outlast dynasties. The master follows your gaze, sighs, taps his cane twice. Focus. A floorboard bows as you shift weight. Its lament harmonizes with the violinist's. A string. Builders soaked oak in salt water to prevent swelling. Except this one rebel. You're dancing on a shipwreck. Grandmother's voice murmurs, "Trouble the water," and the water troubles back. Your partner missteps, crushing your toe. 16th century etiquette required stepping on a lady's foot 3 times before apologizing. He's overachieving. The floor's creaks sync with your pulse, an arrhythmia of carpentry and shame. 3 quick spins, the room blurs into timber-grained streaks. Renaissance architects designed floors to amplify sound, perfect for both minuets and collapsing marriages. A board pops up vengeful as you pass. The master demonstrates a vault. His heel strikes the rebellious plank. Silence. Even the lute holds its breath. Some claim the original builder haunts this spot, though it's probably just subpar mortise work. Grandmother's ghost would have laughed. You graze a splintered edge, roughness, where generations sanded it smooth. They used dance diagrams as fire kindling during the 80 years, war, poetic justice for failed quadrilles. Your souls itch from sawdust older than the Habsburgs. The ensemble regroups, floorboards creaking under shifted weight, like a sleeping beast adjusting. Historians still argue whether the Aquitaine shudder was a dance move or structural panic. Tonight, it's both. Salt air seeps through high windows, the distant sea gnawing limestone cliffs. They floated oak timbers upriver for this floor, waterlogged logs, outliving the bargemen who hauled them. You pivot wood groans, the past nudges your hip. Grandmother's voice fades as the master barks a correction. Her stories never included shin splints. Moonlight retreats, dawn licks the eastern sills, but the floor's whispers linger. Oak remembers what silk forgets. A high G snaps. The lute's gut string recoils like a scalded serpent. The musician's ears burn crimson. Dawn's first light cruelly magnifies each pore. Gut strings warp in summer heat, though this damp hall reeks of mildew. You recall Henry Villa once ordered 84 lute strings on a Tuesday. History's silent scream for a hobby. Others play through the gap. Notes stretch to mask the missing pitch. An E falters, orphaned by its companion. Renaissance lutenists carried spare strings in walrus skin pouches. Or so you've read. This one digs through velvet, fingers trembling against moth-eaten lining. The master's jaw tightens, silver beard bristling like a cat's back. Your grandmother swore musicians buried snapped strings under crossroads at dawn protection against sour notes. This one stuffs the broken strand into his shoe, a frugal man's ritual. A vial thrusts into the silence, its drone thick as monastery honey. Someone snickers, it dies mid-breath. Court archives mention a duke who fined players for snapped strings. But that was before the syphilis. You count 8 water stains on the ceiling, each shaped like a botched curtsy. The lutenist restrings with practiced haste, rosin dust catching in his stubble. Gut strings took 70 days to cure. This one smells pickled in desperation. The missing note haunts the melody, a phantom tooth your tongue won't stop probing. Your heel taps, matching the lute's irregular heartbeat. 16th century dance tutors advised pupils to step light as lute plucks. They clearly never danced on a Tuesday. The master claps, sharp signaling the flutes to compensate. A misplaced F sharp pierces the air, not your fault, but you flinch anyway. Historians still argue whether annotations in old sheet music were corrections, or censorship of lyrics about drunken counts. The lutenist plucks a tentative G. It rings flat. The ensemble winces in unison. Moonlight's retreat exposes a cracked rosette on the lute's face, splinters splayed like sun rays. Luthiers once inlaid virgin ivory there to reflect purity, ironic given the songs it accompanied. Your partner mumbles about needing wine, a sentiment Lady Marguerite de Navarre once embroidered on a handkerchief. The repaired string wails, over-tightened, as the musician sweats through his doublet. Tudor stable hands used horsehair for strings during sieges, a fact that explains so much about their ballads. You pivot, a half-remembered step, crushing the ghost of the missing G beneath your heel. Rebecks swell to mask the lute's distress, their horsehair bows shedding like molting cats. Someone's tempo accelerates, musical panic. The master slams his cane, a hollow crack echoing through floorboards. 17 candles gutter wax pooling around iron sconces, shaped like screaming satyrs. The lutenist's thumbnail bleeds where the string bit, a scarlet bead wells. Court physicians prescribed lute resin for open wounds, a questionable solution to a self-inflicted problem. You wonder if he'll blame the instrument, or the Burgundian humidity, or God. 4 bars pass, the ensemble's cohesion fraying like worn tablature. A minstrel's contract from 1502 survives. Clause 9 penalizes strings broken through vice or ill humor. This guild's tariffs were no joke. Your grandmother's voice whispers they'd have skinned you alive for a missed ritornello. The master gestures keep going as the lute fumbles a trill. You're pretty sure that passage was meant to sound less like a dying crow. Someone improvises a harmony. Historians will either praise it or burn the transcript. Dawn creeps along the floor, slow and yellow as old vellum. The rogue G resurfaces, sharp this time, steelier for its ordeal. Maybe snapped strings improve with age, unlike dancers. Your left slipper splits at the seam, a perfect metaphor no one will notice. The lutenist exhales, a prayer or curse, as the final chord dissolves into wood smoke. Rebec strings slacken relieved. The master rubs his temple, conflict evident. Forgive the faltering musician, or dock his pay. Henry VII reportedly beheaded a lutenist for improvisation, though that might have been the 6th wife talking. Floorboards creak as players disperse, avoiding eye contact. The lute nestles in its case, a wounded thing. Venetian luthiers lined cases with rose petals to soothe temperamental instruments. This one reeks of mildew and shame. Your shadow stretches toward the door, long and thin as a lute string. The missing note lingers a guest who overstayed, but left no rings in the bathtub. Somewhere, a dove coos, announcing dawn to creatures who still care about time. A servant extinguishes the last candle. Acrid smoke stings your eyes. The master murmurs to his ledger, numbers colonizing the margins. You slip past the lutenist, his hands still trembling, and step into a corridor, thick with unsung apologies. Your partner's sleeve brushes your wrist, linen so thin it might have been washed in moonlight. Their palm hovers near yours, a hair's width from contact. Court etiquette demanded gloves for this exact scenario, but yours lie abandoned with the lute player's dignity. A spin pulls you closer. Their breath smells of juniper berries and nervousness. 17th century dance manuals warned against garlic, but said nothing about the scent of panic. Your pinky grazes theirs, warmth pooling where skin meets skin. Historians still argue whether the volta's intimate turns symbolized romance, or just let nobles grope each other legally. The master drones posture, not passion, as if reading your thoughts. Your partner's thumb traces your lifeline, a question etched in sweat. Anne Boleyn once danced this very pavane with Henry Percy, but you're pretty sure they skipped the thumb part. Someone's fan clatters. The sound cracks the tension like a walnut. You pivot away, fingertips dragging across their palm. A loose thread from their cuff clings to you, silk's stubborn goodbye. 16th century apprentices wove love notes into noblemen's sleeves. This feels more like a typo. The vials slow, time thickens. Your knuckles meet again, a muted spark. A Renaissance physician claimed palm sweat could transmit unspoken desires, which explains why yours feel radioactive. The floorboard creaks, betrayal in D minor. 3 steps back, courtly distance reclaimed. 8 heartbeats pass. Your partner's gaze flicks to your collarbone, where a pearl rests. Venetian brides wore pearls during dances to cool immodest heats. Yours just itches. A misplaced turn sends you stumbling. Their grip tightens on your waist. Legend says tripping during the galliard predicts marriage in 3 years. But you've tripped twice tonight. The master clears his throat, a sound like parchment tearing. Beeswax drips onto the floor. Your shadow mimics the pose of a couple in the tapestries above. Those woolen nobles never dealt with sweat-slick palms or partners who chew cloves to hide onion breath. The reel resumes. Your nails accidentally score their wrist. Apologies curdle in your throat, drowned by a sham's bleat. Medieval dancers pinned herbs to their cuffs to ward off plague and awkward silence. Yours offers only lint and poor life choices. The final bow forces your foreheads together, a collision masked as reverence. Moorish dancers in Granada ended each measure with pressed temples. Or maybe that's just your pulse inventing histories. Your partner releases you, fingertips lingering at the dip of your spine. A Florentine gossip sheet, once alleged a duke's son, composed sonnets between his partner's shoulder blades. You resist the urge to check. The ensemble scatters their coughs, and boot squeaks deafening. You pretend to adjust your codpiece, even though you're not wearing one. Some habits transcend centuries. Through the gallery windows, constellations wheeling like drunken courtiers. Orion leers as you rub the indent, their ring left on your finger. Astronomers argue whether that constellation's belt was ever properly aligned, much like tonight's choreography. A servant passes with wine. You both reach for the same goblet. Your hands freeze, a tableau vivant of indecision. Tudor physicians believed shared cups could transfer not just plague, but unwise attractions. The wine goes untasted. Boots echo in the hall. 100 rehearsed goodbyes clog your throat. Your partner bows, a hair too deep, and vanishes into the scrum of musicians. Queen Elizabeth's dancing master outlawed excessive bowing in 1583. But rebellion thrives in small acts. Moonlight stripes the floor sharp as the master's cane. You press your flaming palm to the coldest wall stone. French courtesans reportedly cooled love fevers this way, though the wall's reply is strictly limestone indifference. The viola da gamba yawns in its case, strings slack as your resolve. You count 7 torch smudges on the ceiling, each a Rorschach blot of what nearly happened, or didn't. Dawn's first sparrow tweets, an avian chaperone. Somewhere, a lutenist snaps another string, or maybe it's just your nerves, humming in the unresolved dark. The floor tilts, your left heel catches nothing but air. Stone rushes up, then an arm hooks your ribs like an iron stay. Your ribs protest, their grip suggests someone's practiced catching falling crockery or lovers. Steady, your partner murmurs, their voice rough as uncarded wool. Court protocol demands you thank them, but your tongue's forgotten every language except embarrassment. A giggle ripples through the ensemble doused by the master's cane striking oak. Historians still argue whether the Galliard's leaps showcased agility or just gave nobles an excuse to grope during stumbles. Your savior's thumb presses the dip below your shoulder blade, a spot medieval physicians called the devil's dimple. The contact lingers 3 breaths too long. You right yourself, hands fluttering to adjust a non-existent cap. 16th century dance manuals advised carrying lavender sachets to mask the stench of shame. You settle for exhaling through clenched teeth. The vials resume their strings taut with second-hand humiliation. A half spin brings your backs together, their shoulder blades tense through linen. Moorish dancers in Cordoba allegedly repaired missteps by reciting love poetry backward. You manage a grunt that rhymes with trousers. The master circles, his shadow merges with yours like spilled ink. Grace isn't the absence of stumbles. He intones, though his eyebrow suggests otherwise. Your partner's ring snags your sleeve. The pop of parting threads echoes louder than the rebec. Floorboards creak beneath your next step, and conspirators whisper. Tudor apprentices hid coins in gaps between planks. This one just hides your dignity. A bead of sweat slides down your sternum. 1783's finest silk offers no mercy. The pattern demands a clasped hand turn. Your palms meet like startled birds. Anne of Cleves supposedly wore bejeweled gloves to avoid skin contact during Germanic courtship dances. Hindsight stings sharper than the master's glare. Someone's pomander rolls across the floor. Clove and shame suffuse the air. Venetian governors banned public dancing after the 97th plague death in 1522. A statistic that feels increasingly relatable. Your knee buckles mid-reverence. Their boot nudges yours upright. Renaissance fencing masters taught balance through humiliation drills. You're acing tonight's exam. A moth dive bombs the nearest candle. Its crisp finale pulls more stairs than your fumble. The final chord fades. Silence pools like spilled quicksilver. Your bow's too shallow. There's too deep a study in mutual overcorrection. Madoc courtiers allegedly resolved dance disputes with dagger duels. You settle for nodding like a rusted weather vane. They release your hand, fingers trailing a crescent moon of sweat on your wrist. Prague's alchemists once sold salted devotion rings that absorbed skin oils for love potions. You make a mental note to wash up twice. Outside, a nightingale mocks your footwork from the linden trees. Louis XIV's dance teacher prescribed hummingbird eggs for rhythmic deficiency. You'd settle for a straitjacket and 5 years. Sleep. The master snaps his fingers. A servant drags open the eastern shutters. Gray light paints the ensemble in surrender. 16th century Bolognese dancers rehearsed until dawn to marry the sun. Your union feels more like a hastily scribbled betrothal. Your partner drifts toward the wine table, their shadow merging with others. Austrian ballrooms kept oops chalices for clumsy nobles to drink from post-blunder. Your goblets across the room, leaking onto a ducal heir's shoe. Pine resin scent sharpens as dawn air floods the hall. Someone mutters about breakfast sausages. The master pretends not to hear. Your stomach's growl harmonizes with a rebec's dying wheeze, a duet for the sleep-deprived. A page boy's laughter echoes from the gallery, high and bright as shattered crystal. Milanese dance instructors employed professional mockers to toughen students. You pray the kid gets assigned to a different court. You lean against a tapestry, wool scratchier than the master's last critique. The woven scene depicts a couple mid-volta, their faces blissfully free of sweat stains. Flanders weavers often hid self-portraits in border designs. You imagine one winking through the frayed corner. Boots click toward you. Your partner extends a fig dusted with ash. For the nerves, they rasp. Persian physicians prescribed smoke-rolled fruits for stage fright, though the charcoal aftertaste suggests a distracted chef. The first church bell tolls, sound shuddering through your molars. Avignon's papal choir once held a 3-day sing-off against a particularly stubborn echo. You wonder if it ever apologized. Their sleeve brushes yours as bells fade, an accidental repeat of Act 1. You muster half a smile, which they return as a quarter smirk. The math feels fitting, a transaction balanced less in smiles than in survived humiliations. Sunlight guts the hall's mystery, exposing scuffed floorboards and the master's unbuttoned collar. Spanish dancing masters burned rosemary to clear errors from the air. The only smoke here comes from your singed self-respect. A lute string pings. Its cry strangles the morning stillness. You turn to see who's responsible, but the crowd's already scattering like roaches from a candle flame. Your partner's gone, leaving a fig stem and the memory of steady hands. Somewhere, a sparrow lectures its young about graceful landings. You lick fig ash from your teeth and consider taking up the tambourine. The tambourine lies discarded near your heel, its jingles silenced by a wineskin's bulge. Your kneecaps throb a Morse code, even pigeons ignore. The master paces, though midnight's been circling for hours. No clocks here. He's ripped the pendulum from its cabinet like a rotten tooth. Historians still argue whether Renaissance dance masters banned timepieces to forge focus, or just enjoyed watching nobles piss themselves. Your spine molds to the tapestry, its wool scratchier than a friar's reproach. Somewhere behind the woven unicorn hunt, you swear a hidden weaver stitched a tiny man napping in the margin. Dutch textile guilds often snuck anarchic doodles into royal commissions. God's middle finger delivered via embroidery floss. A page wobbles past with ale steins, each step sloshing proof of the master's evaporating authority. The drink reeks of desperation, and poorly strained dregs swill even the Black Forest's drunkest bears would reject. Moonlight glazes the floor's whorled grain. Your right foot traces the path you should have taken 3 blunders ago. The master halts, his robe skims a puddle of spilled Iberian red. Sunrise is but a state of he begins, then trails off like a deflating bellows. Someone's snort slices the silence. Your money's on the flutist with the eyebrow scar. Lute strings yawn, their players' lids droop lower with each unresolved chord. 100 years back, Venetian dance schools force-fed pupils garlic bread to keep them awake. The pungent legacy lives on in your neighbor's rhythmic burps. Your thigh meets cold stone as you slide floorward. The walls embrace colder than a Habsburg bride. New-Dejar architects designed these galleries to amplify size. Yours boomerangs back as 7 overdramatic echoes. Posture. The cane cracks oak, a sound older than the Holy Roman Empire. You rise like a marionette, hauled upright by its deviant puppeteer. A cramp gnaws your calf, your 5 seconds from inventing a new dance. The St. Vitus shimmy. Blurred figures sway through the central pattern, their steps loosened by fatigue or fermented pears. Bavarian dancing bears moved with more precision, but those bears had better health care. Your pinky brushes a cobweb, its architect dangles angrily from your nail. Sconces vomit wax down the walls, candelabras bow under melted tears. Conservationists found 16th century snail slime on Versailles dancefloor candlesticks. Tonight's drippings will baffle future scholars equally. A drop hits your collar, it cools into a second skin. The lutenist botches a trill, or maybe it's avant-garde. Nuremberg's clockmakers once crafted a timepiece powered by an elephant. Tonight's hours crawl by on caterpillar legs. Your yawn cracks a molar. When did jaws become such traitors? Chilly air slinks through arrow slits, dawn's vanguard testing the waters. Your third eyelid twitch of the hour telegraphs across the ensemble, contagious as the pox. Florence's dance masters prescribed leeches for overactive facial nerves. You'd welcome the diversion. Boots scuff toward you, your partner from the fig debacle offers a ratty handkerchief. The linen's decade of snot stains outnumbers its intact threads. You decline with a tremor that isn't acting. Persian courtesy manuals mandated 3 refusals. Before accepting aid, they retreat at rejection number 2. The master slumps onto the minstrel's bench. His spines curve, spelling exhaustion in cursive. Only his wig retains perfect posture, starched curls defying nature like a freshly powdered hedgehog. Madrid's dancing elite wore lead-lined wigs to build neck strength. You're opting for baldness in your next life. A wine cup topples its drip, sinks with your eyelashes. Flutter. Tudor choreographers considered claret spills auspicious. Though this puddle's shaping up like England's least flattering map. Your toes flinch, avoiding staining feels like the knight's sole victory. The rebec's last player collapses mid-measure, her bow screeching across the floor. The master doesn't stir, his head now cradled in a velvet lute case. Austrian apprentices earned extra coins by impersonating snoring counts during midnight rehearsals. This amateur needs work. You count 13 snoozing nobles, their breaths weaving a lullaby rough as burlap. One drools into his ruff. It's the most honest thing you've seen since Epiphany. A moth dive-bombs your ear. Its buzz sparks a half-hearted swat. Gray light bleeds through the solar's grime. Its advance unstoppable as tax collectors. The master mumbles into velvet once more. From the Alamand, Renaissance physicians warned dawn light, caused lunacy. His slurred words endorse the theory. Your legs stage a mutiny, knees quaking like overstrung lutes. Polish dance drills included squatting in icy rivers to harden the spirit. You're hydrating solely through spite now. The tapestry's hidden sleeper winks as you slump back. His woven smirk proof artisans understood true suffering. A cockerel crows 4 streets over. The master jerks upright like Satan pinched his rump. France's Louis XIII outlawed roosters near Versailles practice halls. Too bad Aquitaine's poultry never learned French. His cane swings wild, missing your hip by a hymn's width. You, all of you again, he rasps, the command wilting like parsley in July. 16th century ballet masters employed children to reset snapped strings. Tonight's youth are busy face-splinting into the salt cellar. Your hand ghosts over the tambourine. Its jingles could mask retreating footsteps. Burgundian minstrels bribed guards with apricots during escape attempts. Your pockets hold lint and regret. The master's wheezing fills your hesitation, a death rattle for ambition. Dew seeps through your souls, each step squelching promises of dry hose. The mirror shows 20 versions of you, all eyeing the nearest exit. Milanese glassmakers secretly glazed palace reflections to flatter nobles. Your hunched silhouette needs no distortions. The chapel bell tolls. Its clang pits your molars against your skull. Avignon's bell ringers averaged 6 hernias annually. You finally understand why. Your partner from earlier reappears, pressing a warm chestnut into your palm. From the kitchens, they whisper. The nut's char marks suggest arson over culinary arts. You crack it open, the burnt shell blacks your thumbnail. Aztec warriors ate roasted nuts before battle. This carcinogenic pebble might explain their empire's collapse. The master's cane splits the air, missing the drum by a hair's breadth. Floorboards creak a warning as the ensemble reforms bones protesting in 18 medieval dialects. Your left pinky toe stages a revolt, its throbbing anthem drowned by viols. Florentine dance censors banned songs in minor keys. The lutist's sour notes bypass the edict through sheer incompetence. The first notes rise a dirge for the willingly deluded. You step, stumble, catch yourself on a guttering sconce. 1785's fire safety codes weep in the distance. The pattern continues, a carousel of errors, spinning on pride's brittle axis. M-O-R-N-I-N-G Chinese letter. N-O-W licks the hall's rafters, its tongue stripping away the night's illusions. The master droops over his cane, a scarecrow beaten by rain. Nuremberg's elephant clock lies in pieces, its final tick lost to mold and mothballs. You imprint this moment in muscle and marrow, another hour's deep scar to outlast the dancing. The soloist's slippers shimmer, freshly dusted with gypsum powder to mask last night's scuffs. Venetian dance schools hung mirrors at ankle height to critique toe alignment. Hers point outward like a duelist's stance. You spot the tremors first, a flicker in her left wrist as she lifts her arms. Renaissance physicians blamed such quivers on an excess of turtle bile. You blame 6 hours of holding a candelabra. Her headdress sways, pearl strands clicking like a starved mantle clock. 17 pounds of satin and wire press her spine into a question mark. French courtiers once commissioned counterweighted headdresses to train posture. You've seen donkeys carry lighter loads. The ensemble shrinks back, their shadows erasing themselves from the floor's moonlit checkerboard. A lyre plucks the opening measure, its strings so frayed they sound like a cough. She steps into the void where the master's cane once thundered. Historians still argue whether 15th century tremors were seen as mortal flaws or proof a dancer's soul vibrated with God. Her right foot hesitates, a millisecond lost between chord and movement. The tremor spreads, threading through her elbow now, but her face stays smooth as papal marble. You recall an altarpiece in Siena Angels with shaking wings mid-flight. Did the painter capture divine motion or a novice's unsteady brush? Her sash unravels, its gold embroidery pooling around her like a surrendering banner. Someone snickers in the gloom, a sound as out of place as a leper at a banquet. Tudor dance manuals urged audiences to throw rosemary for botched solos. Thank God your pockets stayed empty. Her chin lifts, the tremor cresting at her collarbone. Yet she pivots into the spiral turn flawlessly. Light bleeds through a high window, stripping the performance of its midnight illusions. Sweat etches lines through her powdered neck, a delta of fatigue. Viennese dancers rubbed lead paste into their skin to mask perspiration. You hope she skipped that chapter. The lyre's tempo stumbles. She compensates with an improvised glissade that bends time itself. Her fingers curl, a fleeting spasm betraying her. A Nuremberg dancing master's diary described the tremor of ecstasy in his star pupil. But this reeks of terror. You dig nails into your palms, sympathy pains flaring where blisters bloomed hours ago. The final pose steals her breath, arms curved like a reliquary's filigree. One trembling finger points east toward dawn's gray smear. Bavarian lore claims the morning's first light can petrify imperfection. Her stillness defies the myth. The ensemble exhales, a shared breath that ripples her loosened sleeves. No one applauds. No one moves. Even the lyre's last string sighs into silence. You count 11 heartbeats before her heel lowers, the tremor now a memory etched in dust. Aquitaine's archives mention a duchess who danced till her slippers dissolved. You wonder if they found her skeleton mid-pirouette. Floorboards creak as she retreats, her shadow merging with the others. The master's wig tilts, a single curl unraveling to touch his ear. She dusts gypsum from her wrists, leaving chalky fingerprints on history's invisible ledger. The final pose holds you frozen, every muscle a locked cathedral door. 17 pairs of satin slippers bite into waxed oak, squeaks trapped between teeth. Even the candle flames cease their usual flicker, air thickened by held breath. Someone's digestive system chooses this silence to announce its three-course regrets. Historians still debate whether courtiers ate before grand rehearsals, or if hunger was considered medicinal. Your own stomach tangles into knots, wondering if that growl came from 6 feet left. Aquitaine's feasts once featured roasted peacock stuffed with live songbirds, a dish meant to amuse more than nourish. The master's eyebrow twitches, a moth-wing tremor betraying his disdain. You count 12 heartbeats before he exhales, a sound like parchment tearing. Dignity, he mutters, though whether it's praise or censure remains unclear. Flemish tapestries lining the walls depict dancers, mid-leap, their embroidered eyes judging your modern clumsiness. Your neck itches beneath linen collars starched to dagger sharpness. Renaissance sumptuary laws forbade commoners from wearing lace, a fact that offers zero comfort now. A rustle sweeps through the ensemble, postures relaxing molecule by molecule. Your kneecap screams. You've been balanced on half-dough longer than reasonable. 16th century dancing masters recommended leech treatments for sore joints. You'd rather swallow hot coals. The violinist's bow hovers, its horsehair strands trembling like a dowser's rod. Again, the master barks, though his voice cracks on the second syllable. You're 90% certain he's mimicking Louis XIV's famed command, or maybe just parched. Versailles floorboards were allegedly waxed with ambergris to mask royal flatulence. Your hall reeks of plain beeswax and panic. Arms lift, the motion triggering a chain reaction of popping shoulders. Light glints off a discarded hairpin, its pearl tip rolling toward forgottenness. Someone's garter slips, silk slithering down a calf with quiet defiance. Tudor dancing diagrams show precise hand placements. None account for underwear sabotage. Your left pinky finger spasms, echoing yesterday's death grip on practice swords. The gallery above creaks. It's hidden. Observers know better than the tapestry ghosts. Archivists found love letters wedged in similar rafters, ink blurred by centuries of dancers' sweat. A nasal sniff slices the air, too refined to belong to anyone living. Your gaze flicks upward. Is that curtain moving? Or just the draftsman's mistake? Musicians reset their sheets, the lute player mouthing numbers like silent prayers. 10 years ago, a Spanish composer drowned in a fountain mid-minuet, or so tavern gossip claims. Your ribs ache from suppressed laughter, an inappropriate reaction to collective suffering. The master's cane rises, its silver tip catching the tension before release. Silence collapses as bows meet strings, a chaotic rebirth of sound. You pivot, aware your hip joints haven't felt this creaky since birth. Medici ballrooms kept lion cubs chained to pillars during rehearsals. You'd trade 3 courtiers for 1 clawed distraction. The ensemble moves as one, a many-limbed creature, pretending at grace. Floorboards absorb fresh sweat, their oak thirstier than any desert. You catch a whiff of camphor from the master's wig. It masks nothing. Bolognese dancing nuns reportedly invented the 5-step recovery from tripping. You perfect it now. A sneeze builds in your sinuses. You channel it into a dramatic head tilt. Shadows lengthen across the eastern wall. They'll need new candles soon. Dutch wax traders claimed certain hues prevented musical discord, you'd settle for not falling. The pose reforms sharper this time, though someone's elbow jabs your spleen. Court physicians diagnosed 12 dancers with melancholia of the ribcage. In 1602, history repeats. Final bars approach, you brace for the silence yet to come. A moth dive bombs the principal violinist, nature's perfect critic. Your lungs burn worse than during the plague's last quarantine. Or maybe that's the tight lacing. The master's nod feels earned, or perhaps imagined, as darkness swallows the hall. Darkness clings, thick as Nile silt, until the master's voice parts it. Picture halls where lotus blossoms float in alabaster bowls, where dancers' shadows stretch longer than kingdoms. His accent trips over Kemet, the old name, settling for Egyptian king's court like a poorly fitted crown. You inhale beeswax and go striverwaiter, the hallucination so vivid your toes curl against damp stone. Scholars recently proved Egyptian. Nobles perfumed their wigs with ox fat, a fact your sinuses protest. The imagined Nile breeze feels real until a draft from the hall's actual window ruins everything. Pillars carved with papyrus stalks. He continues, though you're already there. Sunlight slices through painted screens, checkering your imagined bare feet. Someone's practice sword clatters downstairs, the present rudely crashing your mental voyage. Historians still argue whether those lotus pools bred mosquitoes or served purely as status symbols. A moth lands on your sleeve, its wings mimicking hieroglyphs you can't decipher. Your fingers brush air, where imagined blossoms dissolve petals, shredding like old love letters. Cleopatra VII reportedly staged naval battles in perfume-scented pools. You take that over-sweating through another allemande. The master's cane taps, 3 impatient knocks, translating across centuries. Eyes forward, not at your phantom lotuses, he chides. Bronze mirrors in Memphis reportedly showed reflections only for royalty. You wonder if commoners felt lighter without that scrutiny. Your left slipper chooses this moment to sprout a pebble, historical escapism, officially cancelled. The lute experiments with a Phrygian mode. It sounds homesick. Workers found mummified ibises under a Luxor dancefloor. Sacred birds sacrificed for better rhythm. You try not to side-eye the musicians. The master describes a feast where dancers wore gilded vulture collars. Your neck stiffens at the thought. Grace requires roots. He intones, a line stolen from some dead Theban poet. Your roots currently feel like overcooked pasta. Wall carvings at Karnak show dancers doing the ox-leg kick. You attempt it badly. Someone snorts, a sound Napoleon's archaeologists likely never heard in those ancient halls. Shadows pool where your imaginary lotus petals fell. The real floor's warped planks reasserting dominance. A bead of sweat traces your spine. You name it Hapi after the Nile god. The violinist saws a note so sharp it could have cut the Red Sea. Focus. The master's wig tilts, a comedy crown slipping leftward. You recall that Memphis dancers trained with weighted ankle rings. Your legs twinge in solidarity. There's debate about whether Ankh symbols on their sandals were holy or just fancy foot support. Your own arches scream, no symbology needed. Moonlight betrays you. It's just an ordinary silver, not the lapis lazuli blue of Thebes. The lute player hums a tune even older than his instrument, maybe a harvest song or a dirge for your muscle tone. Scrolls found near Giza list dance injuries, compensated with linen bandages, and honey you'd kill for that healthcare plan. The master's description falters dancers, moved as reeds in the divine wind. His improvisation shows. Archaeologists found a sandal imprint in Tutankhamun's tomb that matches a modern size. 11. You glance at your own feet, traitors both. Your daydream palace crumbles as the ensemble fumbles a turn, reality's axe chopping through papyrus fantasies. The master sighs a sound weathered as Ramses statues. Again, he says to the room, to the Nile, to time itself. Your sleeve gives first, a sigh no louder than a moth's wingbeat. Satin splits like overripe fruit, the tear crawling from elbow to wrist. Every dancer knows silk's betrayal, the way wealth unravels faster than dignity. Needles materialize, bone handles yellowed by decades of grip. 3 seamstresses encircle you, their thimbles clicking like insect carapaces. Thread glints, wax-coated for endurance. A trick cribbed from Byzantine garment scrolls. Nobody asks how ladies-in-waiting handled wardrobe malfunctions during sword dances. Perhaps they just dueled topless. Egyptian linen could last a century, mutters the eldest mender, her needle darting. True fact, pharaonic burial shrouds survived tombs better than their owner's bones. Her fingers work sideways, a technique aligners used on Tutankhamun's pleated kilts. You half expect her to produce a scarab-shaped pincushion. Someone snickers until their own hem surrenders. The master watches, cane tapping a dirge for punctured elegance. Historians still argue whether Cleopatra's famed golden gowns were sewn with real wire or just arrogance. Your own ensemble now sports a modern ventilation feature, assuming medieval peasants loved armpit breezes. The mender tugs, threads tight, your arm becomes a pincushion diaspora. Spider silk, she whispers, though you pray she's metaphorical. Legends claim Autun court weavers used arachnid draglines for invisible repairs, and also that they hallucinated frequently. The needle bites, a reminder that fantasy and pain share borders. Across the hall, a page mops his brow with a shredded doublet. The 1397 Marseille silk riots flash to mind, merchants stabbed over velvet rolls, which feels excessive until you're down a sleeve. Your mender knots the thread, her finale punctuated by teeth severing the line. No good luck, just a pat that says try not to die again. Moonlight glazes the mended seam, a silver scar across indigo. You rotate your arm, Fabric groans, but holds. Some idiot starts clapping. The master's cane shuts it down. Scholars debate whether Tudor actors sewed scripts into costumes or just really loved chest hair parchment. The violin resumes its A string, sweetened with irony. You partner again their grip, avoiding your reforged limb. The tear's memory lingers, every twirl a negotiation with physics. If pre-stitched stress points existed in Renaissance attire, your ancestors were sadists with better posture. 5 steps in your sash stages a revolt. The seamstresses circle back, less guardian angels than vultures with better PR. Their shears flash, remnants of your dignity fluttering like sacrificial ribbons. The master nods, approval or predator's grin. Your costume now qualifies as abstract art, a masterpiece titled Ode to Murphy's Law. One mender pockets thread scraps, maybe for future repairs. Maybe a voodoo doll. At least your muscles aren't the only things screaming tonight. The lute player plucks a jaunty tune, his version of Schadenfreude. You count 3 new ripples in the silk. Let historians argue whether they're flaws or features. The eldest mender catches your eye, her wink rattles continents. For half a heartbeat, you're certain she darned the shroud of Turin. Then the master barks a pivot, reality's guillotine drops, and you're just a dancer with suspiciously lumpy elbows again. The northwest corner breathes colder. You swear the stones exhale. Dance manuals never mention ghosts, though yours now hates page 32's pirouette. A draft spiders down your neck too precise for mere architecture. They say Duchess Adelaide paced here, her slippers shredding rushes during tax season tantrums. True fact, medieval nobles used discreet hallway paces to avoid audiences and accountability. Your heel grinds a pebble, the sound echoes like cracking bones. Moonlight avoids that corner, perhaps respecting the dead, or scared of their opinions. Court ledgers note Adelaide banned roses after a suitor's ill-advised bouquet. Rumor claims she buried 1,200 petals beneath these flagstones, still cursing gardeners. You sidestep a shadow, it sidesteps back. Coincidence or passive-aggressive hauntings? A moth hits your cheek, you swat nothing. Historians still argue whether Adelaide died of poisoned wine or sheer disdain. Her portrait glowers from the gallery, judging your sash-tying skills from beyond the veil. You mimic the graceful wrist curl from lesson 7. She'd have loathed it. Ghosts probably prefer Baroque flourishes or just jazz hands. Dust pirouettes where her hem once swept, someone's candle gutters, casting a shape too tall for living courtiers. The master snaps his fingers, you're pivoting before fear blooms. Adelaide's second husband supposedly hid love letters in a hollow column, though column cores suggest more tax evasion than romance. Your shoulder blade itches cold pressure, gone when you twitch. The lute falters, musicians blame condensation, but their eyes flick northwest. A page drops his fan, it skitters toward the void corner. Retrieving it feels like accepting a dual challenge, so you let it lie. Chronicles mention Adelaide hosting a midnight joust here, all riders blindfolded, all lances asparagus. None survived the asparagus. That is, your sleeves mended seam tingles, phantom prickles mapping the tear. Adelaide's ghost allegedly gifts flawless stitches to dancers she pities. Your elbow lump suggests she's team tough love tonight. You blink, 3 cobwebs now dangle where the wall met ceiling. Medieval arachnids, original passive-aggressive decorators. The master barks a curtsy. You dip toward ice-cold air. Some claim Adelaide's specter freezes intruders mid-bow, but your knees were already trembling. A servant shuffles past the cursed corner, treads too brisk for someone alive. Historians joke about post-mortem pension plans, keeping her staff eternally employed. You count 6 heartbeats. The servant's shadow has none. Violin strings hum harmonics only ruins should produce. Your nape hairs vote unanimously. We're being watched. Adelaide's 1412 inventory listed 1 velvet morning cloak and 7 suspiciously cheerful parrots. Tonight, the air smells of extinct plumage and unresolved feuds. A floorboard creaks, 3 meters left of where you're decidedly not looking. Someone sneezes. The resulting bless you comes from nowhere. The master glares, his cane levitating toward the offending air. You mirror the ensemble's panic. Poorly. Adelaide's cookbook allegedly included a pigeon surrender tart for besieged castles. Your stomach growls, traitorous organ. Moonlight finally grazes the corner, revealing dust, a lone hairpin, and 0 ghosts. The pin's pearl winks, too modern for Adelaide's era. Unless time-traveling accessories exist. You file that under tonight's non-problems. The master barks you're spinning again, the northwest cold, now clinging like jealous lace. Adelaide's parliament-annulling tiara remains lost, but her chill lives rent-free in your joints. 3 spins later, a warmth brushes your palm. Not paranormal, just a sweaty partner misjudging the allemande. Their grimace mirrors yours. Adelaide's ghost reportedly haunts mirrors, privies, and historians who misquote her. You vow to avoid biographies and that damned corner. The hairpin's gone when you glance back, replaced by a rose petal too fresh for November. Midnight's perfume, jasmine, and spite thickens as the ensemble exits. The northwest corner gathers shadows like a widow gathers grudges. You're halfway to the door when a laugh rattles, older than the rafters, drier than parchment. Everyone pretends not to hear, though the page bolts like a spooked heart. Stone swallows the hall, the Duchess. Silence resumes. Or perhaps she's just rehearsing her next scare, critique notes already etched in frost. The page's heel catches on a warped floorboard. He lurches sideways like a drunk sparrow. His blush burns brighter than the rouge smeared on nobles upstairs. 17. And still tripping over air. True fact court pages trained from age 7 to glide like swans. Or at least not faceplant during Alamans. The eldest dancer catches his elbow, her grip hardened by 70 winters of crushed toes. "Steady, rabbit," she rasps, a nickname that'll haunt him till Christmas. Her knuckles gleam polished walnut under parchment skin as she adjusts his askew sash. You catch the musk of mothballed velvet. Her underdress dates from when this hall smelled of freshly beheaded moose heads. Historians still argue whether medieval dances were for courtship or just to stop nobles from stabbing each other between courses. The page mutters an apology. It evaporates under the lute's bratty 16th notes. Someone snickers, a duke's nephew, probably. His smirk dies when the elder dancer pins him with a look that curdled milk in her prime. "You'd stumble too," she croaks, "if your britches were tighter than a siege drum." The room holds its breath, then erupts in coughs to mask laughter. She steers the page toward the columns, their shadows swallowing his scarlet ears. "Your own soul's stick, too much wax buffed into the stones." Quirky tidbit, dancers used boar fat on their shoes for better spins. And to confuse the castle dogs, the elders' slippers whisper across flagstones, no grease, just decades of muscle memory. The master claps, a sound like bones snapping. From the galliard, he barks, as if anyone forgot after 12 repetitions. You lock eyes with the page. His panic mirrors your first lesson. His partner spins too fast, a comet with an underbite. The elder dancer mouths, counts her lips, carving each number like tombstone dates. A collision's inevitable. The page's elbow meets a duchess's rib. The elder dancer intercepts, steering him clear with a wrist flick learned before the Black Death. "Breathe through the missteps," she mutters. "They're more faithful than husbands here." Your own partner steps on your hem. A tear bells through the music. Trumpets blare outside, some count's birthday, or maybe a merciful distraction. The page's cheeks return to mortal pink until the elder dancer produces a kerchief from her sleeve. It's monogrammed with a forgotten king's crest, perhaps looted, perhaps a gift. Blotting his brow, he squeaks thanks. The master glares his patience, thinner than the rubies on his ring. Again he hisses, the word frosted with venom only old men brew. The page swallows. You see him weighing escape through the guardrobe versus honor. Honor loses, but the elder dancer blocks his retreat. Her advice floats over the violins, bite-sized wisdom for drowning boys. Lead with your knees, not your nose. Stop counting the music's a river, not a ledger. When he botches a turn, she barks, startling a servant into dropping a tray. Crystal shatters, an alto C sharpens the air. You note her posture, spine straight as a spear, shoulders soft as risen dough. They say she danced for a prince who died laughing at a jester's flatulence. Her feet never quit, even when the audience did. The page mimics her stance, a sapling aping an oak. Midnight creeps closer, the chandeliers dimming, as if bowing to inevitability. The elder dancer adjusts her hairpin, a swan wrought in silver, tarnished to ghosts. The page's final spin almost succeeds, until a loose shoelace mocks him. The elder sighs, kneeling to knot it with fingers arthritis, hasn't pardoned. When she rises, the room tilts. You're unsure if she'll stand or crumble. She does both, a controlled collapse into the next stance. The page offers his arm, a gesture so brave. The violins falter. She waves him off, but not before patting his wrist. Someone's stomach growls. The elder dancer points to a tapestry of disemboweling a stag. Supper's in 3 hours, she deadpans. Until then, chew your dignity. The page's grin flickers, a candle lit in a tomb. The master calls the final figure, an embrace that isn't, hands hovering near waists like startled hawks. The elder dancer demonstrates, her arms framing empty air with courtly precision. Imagine you're holding a fart, she stage whispers. 20 courtiers bite their lips raw. As bows are exchanged, the page's fingers brush hers, arcs of calloused skin and storybook gallantry. Her nod says more than the master's tirades ever could. The lamps gutter, shadows stretch the moment into something tender and fleeting. Voices clot the hallway, nobles dissecting errors over flagons. The elder dancer lingers, rubbing a thumb over her swan pin. You catch her whispering to the prince's portrait, or maybe just cursing her bunions. The page hesitates at the exit, palms pressed to the door's iron grin. Behind him, the elder dancer melts into the gloom, another relic, the dark claims gently. When his feet finally move, they don't stumble. Your neck cricks upward, drawn by the cold kiss of stars, piercing the hall's high windows. Through warped, leaded glass, Orion's belt glimmers, 3 diamonds stitched into night's black velvet. Centuries-old farmers timed harvests by his rise, a truth your teacher mentioned between scoldings. The music's gone, replaced by the scuttle of servants snuffing candles. Your breath fogs the pain. Orion blurs into a smudge, a child's chalk mark. A tapestry flaps. Its embroidered saints ripple as drafts creep under doorstones. You trace the constellation's outline, ignoring the muffled clang from the scullery. An old squire swore stars were heaven's torn seams. His ghost still haunts the library's astrology scrolls. Your slippered toe nudges a discarded wine skin. It sloshes like a drunkard's apology. Moonlight stripes the floor, chessboard squares of silver and ash. You step into a beam, your shadow elongates, a stretched-out court jester. The hearth's last log splits. Its pop sends sparks fleeing up the chimney. Scholars argue whether the midnight pavane was meant to mirror constellation paths, or just an excuse to grope by starlight. Your smirk fades as boots echo outside guards, swapping tailies of tavern brawls. The rafters creak, heat leaving their bones. You count 7 bats nestling into the gloom, medieval pest control, with better timing than most drummers. Someone's abandoned purling comb winks on a bench, its teeth splayed like a cracked harp. You pocket it, a habit from childhood when borrowing kept your hands busy during sermons. A shutter bangs, starlight floods the eastern alcove. There, etched into the wall, a knight's dagger left its mark during some long ago spat. The initials are A jut through a crude carving of a boar. Quirky tidbit, the real Richard Anglicus died tripping over his own spur. But don't tell the pilgrims at his tomb. You press a thumb to the gouge. Time has blunted its rage. Chill seeps through your underdress, goose flesh rising like bread dough. Your breath syncs with the tick of a wall clock, forbidden by the master. Yet someone's smuggled one in. Its pendulum flicks, a fat silver trout swimming through air. 2 chimes murmur, a sound felt more than heard. You imagine mice freezing mid-nibble, tiny hearts racing. From the gallery, a cough. The elder dancer perches on the railing, her silhouette gnawing an apple, core and all. She chucks the stem, it arcs, a comet grazing Orion's shoulder. He's late tonight, she rasps. Whether she means the constellation or someone fleshier, you'll never ask. The sky pales, dawn's foxfire nibbling the horizon. Stars dissolve, their pinpricks mending, as if heaven can't afford loose threads. Orion's belt dims, the final diamond dulling to a pawnshop pearl. Your knees protest as you rise. Flagstones have no mercy on noble bones. The elder dancer vanishes, a rustle of taffeta, a sigh swallowed by shadow. You linger, memorizing the way starlight clung to her hairpins, tarnished swan. A servant's broom rasps elsewhere, sweeping up last night's crushed rose petals and spilled futures. Your fingers find the comb in your pocket. Its teeth bite your palm, a welcome sting. Footsteps approach, lighter than the pages, heavier than the master's. You turn, expecting a specter. But it's just the lute player retrieving his forgotten cap. He nods, worlds conveyed in chin jut and eyebrow. His boots crunch rogue candle wax as he goes, leaving you with Orion's afterimage burned into your vision. Somewhere a dove coos. The clock ticks. The hall holds its breath, waiting for tomorrow's missteps and moth-eaten glories. You exhale, the stars dissolve as night's embroidery frays into dawn. The master's cane cracks the floor, a thunderclap in the hush before music. Not a race, he warns, but the lute kicks into a gallop anyway. You pivot, satin slippers skating over wax-smeared flagstones. Someone's borrowed shoes pinch, each step a negotiation between bladders and dignity. Palm to palm with a baron's third son, his glove damp, where the wine stain won't scrub out. He misreads the tempo, yanks you into a spin too fierce. Your elbow clips a candelabra, tallow drips scar the floor. The master doesn't see, too busy glaring at the drummer miming quarter notes. News flash, the waltz wasn't even Austrian until some Habsburg bastard stole it from shepherds. But try telling that to the Duke's envoy, currently scowling at your torn hem. Your partner mutters an apology or a curse masked by the violinist's screech. A glissando, everyone lurches left. The master's jaw works, chewing rebukes he'll spit out later. You glimpse the elder dancer in the gallery, nodding along like a metronome. Her lips move, counting steps older than the hall's cracked mortar. 3 turns, ankles wobble. The mirrors throw back 20 warped versions of your grimace. Quirky trivia. Those glass panels were smuggled here after Versailles mirrors got lead poisoning rumors. One panes bubbled, a Nuremberg guild's drunken mistake. Your reflection stretches, a funhouse ghost with excellent posture. The ensemble stalls, someone forgot the repeat. A page drops a tray, hazelnuts roll underfoot. Your partner sidesteps, crushing a nut with a wet pop. His wince mirrors yours. Historians still argue if waltzes were banned for being too sexy or just too German. Heat rises. Your underlayers paste themselves to your ribs. The master's sleeves flap, crow wings, as he conducts chaos. A discordant note, the harpist glares at the lutist. They've hated each other since the midsummer masque, and pear tarts vanished from the pantry. Cue the promenade. Ranks reform boots and slippers scuffing in ragged unison. The elder dancer mouths left foot as you pass. Too late, your heel catches a flagstone's dip. Only the Baron's boy's grip keeps you upright, his cuff button imprinting a half-moon on your wrist. The master barks a command, dialect from his alpine youth. The drummer switches to a polka, barely masked by groans. Laughter erupts from the kitchen stairwell, scullions betting plum cakes on your humiliation. A candlestick tips, hot wax corals the floorboard's ancient grain. You spot the Duke's envoy scribbling notes, a quill sharper than his cheekbones. His seal ring winks, a spider curled in amber. 5 more minutes of this, and you'll be betrothed to a tax ledger for sure. The elder dancer ghosts past, her perfume smothering the gout-riddled vicar's onion skin scent. Another spin, your temple grazes a pillar's carving. The stone boar's tusk left a welt on 5 generations of nobles. Your grandmother danced here. They say she punched a margrave mid-pavon. Tonight, you settle for elbowing the Baron's son in the ribs. A fermata, everyone stumbles into reverence. The master inhales, prepping a tirade when the hall doors bang open. Frost etches the floor, a page lugs in firewood. The interruption's a mercy. Nobles pretend to adjust laces and rehearse small talk. The envoy approaches, his boots pristine despite the carnage. You curtsy, knuckles whitening on your skirt's beadwork. He mentions Vienna, claims Mozart's ghost haunts the Spanish riding school. You nod, suppressing a snort. Quirky fact, Mozart actually hated horses, except as a stew. The master's cane lifts time's up. Musicians flee, except the lutist, swigging something that reeks of apricots and regret. Dawn claws through shutters, the chandelier's crystals death-awe into rainbows. Your shadow stretches, a giantess ruling a kingdom of scuffed parquet. One violinist lingers, plucking a melody older than feudalism. The notes skitter, a mouse evading brooms. You kick off your slippers, bare toes relishing grit and ghosts. Somewhere a bell tolls. Somewhere the master grumbles into his beard. But here now your heels strike sparks from stone, and for 3 beats you outpace time itself. Embers whisper lies of warmth, their glow thinner than a courtier's patience. A servant drifts in her patched cloak, blending with soot stains. They say split oak once sealed land deals, till a baron burned his marriage contract and started the 40 years ash war. You watch her feed the hearth, elm logs stacked for loyalty, you for mourning. Every court in Aquitaine follows the assize of fuel 3 cords per week. No pine before Easter. She breaks the rule, tosses in resinous cedar. Its crisp crackle scatters sparks like fleeing stars. Her fingers move stiffly, chilblains blooming beneath woolen wraps. You wonder if she's the one who mended your ripped hem last Tuesday. The fireback's iron face glowers, a worn Tudor rose devoured by tarnish. Mainstream history claims these plates spread from England, but 87 skeletons in Rouen suggest French blacksmiths forged them first. Resin smoke stings your eyes, or is it the sight of her frayed cuffs? The hearth exhales, heat brushing your ankles. Your bare foot finds a charred hazelnut from the page's spilled tray. Crunching, it releases a bitter salute to lost dignity. The servant pokes embers, revealing parchment scraps in the ash. Eliner's tax rolls, a lover's poem. You'll never know her poker reduces both to wings of soot. Someone dumped lavender oil on the logs, the pretense of luxury choking the air. 3 generations back, a duke's physician swore lavender fumes warded off the Black Death. They burned so much, peasants started calling it the Purple Plague. The servant sneezes, a sharp sound she muffles in her elbow. You count floorboard gaps to avoid acknowledging her shame. Flames surge, gold light licks the vaulted ceiling. Your shadow joins others on the wall, a parliament of nobodies. The servant retreats, her silhouette shrinking, until she's just a smudge in the doorway. Historians still argue whether pages slept in the hearth ashes for warmth, or just hid there to avoid Latin drills. New logs shift, settling into a lattice of glowing veins. You think of the elder dancer's hands, knuckles swollen from decades of this same nocturnal choreography. The fire whispers in Gaelic, a language the Hearthmaster banned after that incident with the Scottish minstrel. Embers pop, one lands on your toe. You let it burn out, a penance for today's botched allemande. Midnight carves its initials into the room. Cold seeps back, claiming the edges first. The servant reappears, a shadow dragging sackcloth full of hedgehog-shaped kindling. Quirky fact, hedgehogs were considered lucky fire starters until someone noticed their little screams. She arranges twigs with ritual precision, each facing north like compass needles. A resin bubble bursts, spitting amber light across her cheek. For a heartbeat, she looks like the queen in those illuminated manuscripts. Then she coughs, the spell shatters. Her boot grinds a coal into the mortar, scattering black diamonds. You trade a glance, neither will admit to come morning. The fire roars, rebirthed and ravenous. Its heat warps the air, making the lone surviving mirror ripple like a mirage. You see 20 warped servants, 20 warped nobles, their faces melted together. The servant flees, her soles slapping stones, until the dark swallows the sound. Ash flurries settle on your sleeve, gray snow for a dance that never ends. You imagine the fire as a living thing, scales, claws, a tail of smoke. It said Count Valame's alchemist kept a salamander here fed it rubies and Venetian glass. The creature supposedly escaped during a saraband, burned 7 tapestries and a bishop. Embers dim again, resigned to their ephemeral lot. Somewhere a door creaks. Sap weeps from cedar logs, sweetness undercut by the metallic tang of cooling iron. Your blistered heel finds a warm flagstone, one last comfort before dawn's audit. The fire sighs, a dying king, acknowledging his heir. Flames gutter, then rally in a final crescendo. Light pricks the servants' gallery, exposing dust veils on empty chairs. You swear one shifts, as if a ghost leaned forward, but the hearth's last breath dies, and the dark returns hungrier than before. The satin bites your heel, a parasite feasting on skin. You press a thumb into the raw welt, its heat pulses like a second heartbeat. Across the hall, a girl adjusts her slipper, her grimace mirrored in your own jaw. Historians still argue whether medieval dance masters used mustard plasters to numb blisters, or just enjoyed their students' suffering. Your partner limps into place, his buttons catching threads from your sleeve. Courtly love smells like camphor ointment. Tonight, the apothecary's answer to shredded souls. He murmurs a joke about the Black Prince's gout, 300 years too late. The reference lands like a lamed stag. Precious metals in his family crest won't save him now. A maid deposits a clay cup near your foot, honeyed wine cut with willow bark. Mainstream records claim a leaner of Aquitaine's dancers drank poppy milk, but only after witnesses left. You sip sour stewardship, your tongue recoiling. The drink's dregs hold rosemary sprigs, or are those beetle wings? Your rival catches your stare, her smile coal-edged and knife-thin. She pirouettes flawlessly, a swan who'd gnaw off her own foot to stay afloat. Rumor claims she sleeps in her slippers, tightened with sailor's knots. Quirky truth, 12th century cordwainers lined shoes with dried viper skin to ward off fatigue. You wonder if she'd try it. The dance master claps his rings, snapping the air. You form the reverence, knees grinding like millstones, 47 steps until the next rest. But who's counting? Beneath your hem, a blister ruptures. Warmth trickles into your toes' embroidery, Catherine of Braganza's crest, now stained with your ambition. Someone's mother once said suffering polishes the soul, but yours feels more chewed. A page drags a resin-soaked mop across the floor, its stench almost masking the blood. You recall an old tapestry where dancers float inches above ground, their feet pearlescent and unscarred. The curator in Poitiers insists it's symbolic. You call bullshit. Your partner's palm meets yours damp as a butcher's apron. The ensemble trills a beret, notes sharp as the stones in your slipper. A noblewoman's ghost supposedly haunts the minstrel gallery, applauding only when someone bleeds on the tiles. No one's clapping tonight. The mirror wall shows 20 versions of you, all wincing in unison. One reflection hesitates, its leg trembling. You inhale through your nose, counting heartbeats instead of steps. Modern reenactors use gel pads and physical therapy. Your ancestors had grit and early graves. Candle wax pearls on the floor, treacherous as ice. You sidestep a puddle your hip, knocking a lyre stand. The musician glares, his beard flecked with spit and rosin. A loose string dangles, threatening to trip the spinet player. You pray it holds, just until dawn. 73 repetitions in muscles memorize the agony. An earl's daughter retches behind a pillar, her muffled heaves lost in the viol's vibrato. You envy her velvet mask, its lace hides more than sweat. The dance master pretends not to smell it. Silk tears at your neckline, a slow surrender. Needle marks pucker the fabric where someone mended it last century, tiny scars mirroring your own. Exhibits in Avignon display similar dresses, bloodstains labeled unknown origin. You know better. Midnight tolls, though all clocks remain banished. Your body knows it's the hour when wounds weep freely. A servant offers lemon rinds to press against your temples. You decline. The sting might keep you awake or put you down like a horse. The girl beside you stumbles, her sash unfurling like a surrender flag. You catch her elbow, your blisters screaming truce. She mouths thanks through clenched teeth. Historians will call this solidarity. You call it shared desperation. Cinnamon incense fails to mask the rot, sweetness curdling around your ankles. They burned it during the great mortality too, as if scent could outwit God's wrath. Your hips swivel, a movement that once felt liquid now grates like rusted hinges. A door creaks open, a slice of moonlit corridor. The dance master rubs his nape, giving permission without words. You shuffle toward benches, corpses awaiting resurrection. The girl with beetle wing wine offers a handkerchief, stained but clean enough. Your soles peel from slippers, velvet kissing open flesh. 3 novices compare wounds by candlelight. Count Rotrou lost 2 toes during the siege of Tailleberg. One boasts his great-granduncle's claim to fame. You dunk your foot in rose vinegar, tradition's antiseptic. Legends say French knights did this before battles. You just want to walk tomorrow. The fire exhales cinders. One lands on your knee. You watch it burn through silk, flesh, the ascension ache of earning your place. Dawn leaks through shutters, pale as the linen binding someone's ankle. The dance master lifts his baton. You rise. The feast's leftover trumpets pierce the hall. A donkey's death rattle through leaded glass. You straighten, knees cracking like roasted chestnuts. The dance master slams shutters hard enough to rattle St. Martial's reliquary. 3 rooms over dust showers from ceiling saints. Mainstream chronicles insist Aquitanian weddings lasted 7 days, though you'd bet your blisters this groom died of boredom by dawn. Outside, roast boar fat congeals on cobblestones. Inside, your breath fogs the air. The violinists rub frozen fingers, their bows shedding horsehair like molting cats. Quirky tidbit, medieval minstrels stretched pig bladder membranes over tambourines for that authentic intestinal resonance. You're suddenly grateful for the silence. Lute strings snap in sympathy with your tendons, spiraling into corners like fugitive spiders. Historians still argue whether grand feasts showcased wealth or just hid alliance-building bribery. You call it free food for musicians who forgot their gloves. A page skids through sludge, his torch revealing revelers passed out in the bishop's herb garden. The dance master barks a scale, forcing your spine into the posture. Nobles call serene, peasants call stick up the arse. Someone's stomach growls a countermelody. You recall King John's wedding feast, 500 partridges served in gravy made from their own tears. Or was that Henry the young king? The master's cane taps triple time, his version of mercy. Chilled wine creeps through your veins, coarsework for winter's embrace. Through barred windows, a soprano's hiccup spirals upward. She's either weeping or attempting a chromatic run. Your slipper adheres to the floor, dried honey versus fresh blood. A servant scrapes wax off a virginal's lid, the sound like a spoon through gruel. The dance master hums a pavane, its rhythm syncs with your pulses' panicked flutter. Centuries from now, musicologists will call this innovative polyphony. You call it surviving until the next piss break. The girl beside you sways, her elbow jabbing your rib. Her whisper cuts the cold. I heard they're serving quail eggs stuffed with nightingale tongues out there. You snort an unapproved ornamentation. The master freezes, his glare hotter than the dead hearth. 300 years later, a Berkeley professor will call this moment embodied resistance to courtly spectacle. Right now, it's just snot dangerously close to your best chemise. Icicles dagger from rainspouts, glass fangs framing the moon. A drummer's pinky nail skitters across the floor, a casualty of tremors no woolen glove could prevent. You crush it under heel, a small vengeance for crushed metatarsals. Candle smoke stings your eyes, or maybe it's the phantom scent of ginger, preserves wafting up from the feast's dregs. A noble staggers into the courtyard, his hose at half-mast. He vomits elegantly into a planter, shaped like the Duke of Burgundy's head. The ensemble plays louder mockery, disguised as diligence. Even the dance master's lips twitch a crack in his marble facade. Your big toe goes numb, blessed oblivion. You imagine the feast's third night menu confit heresy, aspic of regret, a nice chablis. The violist's fingertips bleed onto the fingerboard, E-flat tinted crimson now. Someone offers him a goose grease poultice, the same salve monks used to silence chatty reliquary skulls. Dawn flexes its gray fingers, streaks of light clawing through shutter cracks. The master murmurs a Provençal folk tune, its lyrics lost to your half-frozen ears. Outside, A drunk bard recites Roman de la Rose to a disinterested hound. Your left calf cramps, a king's ransom in Charlie horses. The spinet sighs, a final C-sharp hangs between prayer and surrender. You count 12 blisters, no, 13. 13th's unlucky, a truth as old as Charlemagne's hemorrhoids. The dance master flexes his hands, joints popping like dance macabre castanets. You mimic him, knuckles screaming bloody murder. Snow powders the windowsills, the world's iciest epilogue. A maid sweeps crushed rosemary by the door, its crisp scent undercut by someone's abandoned codpiece. The trumpets start again, this time a retreat. Your lungs burn with every inhalation, winter sharpening its knives on your ribs. The girl with the beetlewing cup offers you a sugar nip, stolen, no doubt. You suck bitterness disguised as sweetness. Henry VII's court would have applauded the metaphor. Your reflection in a goblet shows 19 chins, and one survivor's squint. Art historians adore these unvarnished medieval self-portraits. You prefer oil paintings, lies in linseed and gilt. Bells toll the friar's dawn lament. The dance master stretches his neck, vertebrae crunching like gravel under a cartwheel. His sigh fogs the air once more. You're not sure if he's threatening or begging. The mirrors show 100 hollow eyes, but the floor still expects its due. You lift your arms, silks whispering secrets even the spies missed. Somewhere, a kitchen boy licks a cake platter clean. Here, your heel leaves its mark on the stones, salt and iron welded by fatigue. The ensemble draws breath, their music box gears grinding toward enlightenment. Outside, a peacock shrieks, its tail plucked bare for some lady's hat. Inside, a single perfect fifth dissolves into silence. The master nods, or maybe just falls asleep standing up. Your tongue swells with unvoiced profanities, a lexicon future linguists will call inventively anatomical. The shutters rattle a wind from the east smelling of burnt almonds and failure. Someone coughs into their sleeve, a sound like dice in a skull cup. You count 6 exits, 7 with imagination. The mirrors multiply them, an infinity of escape routes only saints could navigate. Frost etches the lute's sound holes, death's reluctant duet partner. 100 knives called tradition hover at your throat. You smile, lips splitting like overripe figs, and take the first step. Your foot traces the demi-point curve mother demanded, same ache in the lateral arch, same lavender andiron scent of her sweat-soaked coif. Beeswax candles gutter in wall sconces. Or was it tallow back then? Historians still argue whether medieval dance masters used live musicians or just hummed. Your kneecaps vote for humming. The air's wrong modern beekeepers say 12th century wax had a greener tint. But your nose insists this gloom smells identical. Dance manuscripts claim the Brannel step cured melancholy. You suspect it, just spread blisters evenly. A moth flits past, its wings echoing your hem's moth-eaten embroidery. Quirky tidbit, Noblewomen secretly patched torn gowns with bridal veils. Or so the kitchen gossip claims. Your hip remembers mother's pinch, pinky, and thumb digging the iliac crest, her corrections leaving blooms of yellow-green. She'd whisper, kings watched these very steps, while you counted flagstones to mute the cramps. Turns out kings mostly watched their wine goblets chronicles. Note Louis VII once mistook a duke's wife for a serving girl. Someone's pomander rolls underfoot, clove and rot. You kick it toward the shadows, a petty rebellion disguised as a misstep. The dance master's cane freezes midair, his eyebrow arching like a drawn longbow. 400 years later, Oxford dons will debate whether courtly dances were mating rituals or military drills. Right now, it's just terror of a pissed-off elder with an oak dowel. Your little finger curls the way mothers did during lute lessons, a hereditary defect dressed as flourish. The mirrors reflect 20 versions of this quirk, 20 ghosts of her grip on your ribs. Moth wings brush your nape, or a dead woman's sigh. You're too tired to shudder. A page drops a tray, hazelnuts skittering like live coals. The master inhales, preparing to eviscerate, but stops. His gaze snags on your trembling elbow. For a heartbeat, you're 10 again, mother's Saint Virge. Must I chart your bones? Echoing through the solar, rain taps the shutters. Same syncopation as her slipper beating time. The scent of melting wax thickens, clogging your throat with recollections. Court accounts list 700 candles burned per feast night. Your childhood lessons probably bankrupted a chandlery. Your partner's ring catches your sleeve, a snag that would have earned mother's signature tusk. He mouths pardon the word, all but erased by practice's grind. Quill records claim lords bet on dancers' endurance. You mentally wager 3 sous against your own collapse. The violin's lowest string moans, a sound felt in the molars. Someone chuckles, quick as a blade, leaving its sheath. Mother's ghost fades with the vibration, her critique drowned by G-sharp's grumble. A servant sweeps crushed rosemary by the door, its needles catching in your fraying hem. You pivot, a move once requiring 6 tries to satisfy maternal standards, and find it effortless now. Irony sticks in your molars like March apples. Scholars boastfully cite the Luttrell Psalter for dance history, but you remember truer details, the way sweat made silk grip like a second skin, the rasp of pride swallowed mid-pirouette. The master's cane taps allegro, wood denting stone, where generations of canes struck the same spot. Your calf muscle spasms, betrayal written in cramp stitch. Across the hall, a girl adjusts her barbette the way your sister did before the pox took her laughter. Candle flames drown in their own wax. Your shadow stretches into something monstrous on the far wall. Mother's voice murmurs posture in your inner ear, a haunt you'll carry to the grave. You straighten, a vertigo of muscle memory, and step into the next measure. Snow muffles the city's clamor beyond the shutters, a mercy. The lutenist slides into a galliard rhythm, its hops and skips designed for younger joints. You manage the first 3 steps, then cheat with a half-turn even mother couldn't fault. Dancing masters called it the widow's respite, though no text admits it exists. Your pinky twitches again, a tick she swore audiences would notice. Let them. Every mirror here has seen worse. Maidens vomiting behind screens, counts pissing in wine decanters. History scrubs itself raw for manuscripts. But these stones remember the itch beneath the pageantry. A bat swoops through the rafters soft as a lost glove. The dance master doesn't flinch. He's weathered worse infestations. Henry of Champagne once hosted a banquet. During a swallow migration, chroniclers tactfully omit the guano, marinating the lamb. You misstep deliberately and relish the stumble. Mother's ghost gasps, but the real woman died mid-curtsy 2 winters back. The floor accepts your defiance. It scratches and stains too numerous to care. An ember pops in the hearth, your pupils contract for a flash. The hall swells with the ghosts of dances past. Then darkness reclaims its grip. The master murmurs again, his voice frayed as the edge of a novice's embroidery. Your knees creak through the final figure each pop and snap an ode to old injuries. Outside, a stable hand vomits elegantly into a horse trough. Inside, you mirror the motion with a curtsy. Mother would have called it sloppy. But mother's not here to see the century turning, one labored step at a time. Twilight leaks through cracks in the shutters. The mirrors turn mercurial. You blink. 20 pairs of eyes blink back. One reflections. Hair strays from its pins. You mentally scold all 20 versions. Glass panels here cost more than serf villages. Venetian secrets smuggled in wine casks. Your great-aunt swore workers stirred mercury into the silvering, claimed it made nobles' faces glow. She also believed leeks cured baldness. So maybe don't trust her chemical insights. A candelabra flickers. 20 flames drown in 20 murky mirrors. Your left elbow juts wrong in 7 reflections. Right knee bends too deep in 9. Historians still argue whether Renaissance mirrors sparked self-awareness or just narcissism fueled by bad craftsmanship. You're voting for the latter as reflection number 12 develops a sudden limp. Sweat beads above your lip, 20 glimmers mimic dew on a spider web. The dance master's rules echo perfection thrives in repetition, but 20 imperfect clones beg to differ. Chronicles mention Queen Claude fainting at her mirrored chamber. Now you get it. That sticky sweet vertigo, too many bodies moving where only one should exist. Your shoulder droops. Reflections mimic the slump like gossip rippling through a convent. Mother's posture drills itch beneath your skin, a phantom ramrod strapped to your spine. You straighten and catch reflection 8 mouthing a silent curse. Glass-making guilds guarded their techniques with dagger and poison. Meanwhile, you're defenseless against this hall of judgy doppelgangers. A moth kamikazes into a mirror 20 tiny thumps. Its twins lie stunned on stone, a squadron downed by vanity. Courtiers once paid painters to retouch their portraits daily. Mirrors lack that mercy. They broadcast every tremble, every zit, every poorly concealed yawn. The lutenist plucks a sour note. 20 faces wince in unison. Reflection 3's cheek twitches. A tick you thought died at 14. Palace inventories list 43 hand mirrors in a leaner's trousseau. But not one showed her how to dodge Henry's temper. You pivot, a move polished smoother than the glass itself. 20 skirts flare 19, sink perfectly. Reflection 17 drags its hem like a wounded pheasant. Quill records claim Catherine de' Medici banned mirrors after 30. Smart woman. Wind howls through a loose pane, 20 images ripple like pond reflections. For a heartbeat, you're multiplied into 100, 1,000, a hall of averted eyes. Renaissance philosophers wrote screeds about identity fracturing in mirrored rooms. You scribble a mental footnote. Try doing it in satin slippers. A servant buffs a smudge. All 20 versions darken as he blocks the light. His rag moves in circles, the same motion mother used to erase your charcoal sketches. Court lampooners joked that mirrors revealed a person's true dance form, usually right before the dancer fell ill at supper. Your partner steps into the glass. Edge. Suddenly, there are 40 of you. His double gropes for a phantom's sword, hilt, habit from the tilt yard. Mirrors in the Privy Council chamber were angled to spot hidden daggers. Yours just spotlight that rogue unicorn hair spiraling off your temple. Candle wax pools beneath a sconce. 20 golden puddles mimic the mirror's molten shine. Reflection 5 picks at her cuticle, a habit you broke last Lent. Archaeologists found a shattered Venetian glass in Wolsey's privy. Maybe he too hated his cheekbones in morning light. The dance master materializes in the glass, multiplied into a jury of frowning elders. His cane taps. All 40 shoulders snap back. The Dauphin's ballroom had twice as many panels, he mutters. Half the dancers quit, claimed the echoes of their own breathing drove them mad. You exhale, 20 chests deflate. 3166, 3167. You lose count of the reflections. Your nose itches. 20 hands twitch toward it like puppets on a single string. Etiquette manuals forbade scratching in mirrors, but said nothing about discreetly rubbing your ankle against a table leg. A page boy's giggle slices the silence. You spot him in Reflection 9's periphery. 20 heads whip around, he pales at the sudden army of glares. Court fools wore bells to herald their approach. This kid's wearing silence, and your patience as a hat. The violinist's bow screeches. 20 winces ripple through the glass. Reflection 13 mimes throttling him. A daydream you'll confess to no priest. Glassblower's apprentices went blind by 30 from the furnace's glare. Tonight, you trade places for 5 minutes of merciful darkness. Your stubbed toe throbs. Each reflection's foot pulses in sympathy. One version mouths merde. You pray the real lips stayed still. Duchess Marguerite installed mirrored ceilings in her bathhouse. Gossips said she enjoyed watching steam distort her rivals' figures. The dance master drifts closer his doubles, converging like a wolf pack. Anne of Brittany danced the pavane before 700 mirrors, he intones. You bite back the obvious. Anne also died at 36, likely of optical fatigue. Moonlight floods the hall, 20 versions bleach into specters. Your mother's ghost would have loathed this. She preferred shadows that hid a crooked spine. The Hall of Mirrors at Versailles won't exist for centuries. Right now, you're trapped in its spiteful great-grandmother. A shoulder seam splits. 20 gasps haunt the air. You clutch the fabric. 20 hands bloom like lilies over wounded ribs. Tapestry repairs were considered women's work, until the first mirror showed men their own dangling threads. The master claps, the sound fractures into a thunderclap of echoes. Encore, he commands, or maybe his reflection does. You turn 20 spins, 20 blurred whirls of silk and spite. Versailles will one day inspire revolutions. You're staging your own, one fractured pirouette at a time. Fatigue inks your vision. The mirrors soften into watercolor. 20 versions of you sway, a grove of wilted hellebores. Habsburg emperors installed mirrors to make cramped palaces feel vast. The trick works until you realize every inch of vastness is just you. Dawn pales the eastern panes. Your army of selves fades like steam from soup. One reflection lingers, mouthing words too raw for daylight. When the servant snuffs the candles, the glass turns opaque, finally, mercifully blind. Palms slick, you swipe them against your hips, but the satin's no help. Someone's temple glistens nearby, a jeweled caterpillar inching toward their eye. Heat hums off 24 bodies. The air's thick as August in a woolen kirtle. Court physicians swore linen soaked in rosemary prevented ague, hence the handkerchiefs embroidered with sprigs. Your nose wrinkles. This hall reeks of 100 half-wilted herb sachets gone rogue. A blur of white darts into your periphery. Linen brushes your wrist, vanishes before you turn. Your nape prickles. Damp tendrils coil tighter under the cap's lace edge. Tudor laundresses boiled linens with rose ash, claimed it scented sheets for a year. Judging by the floral musk clinging to this scrap, maybe they weren't lying. Reflection 17 blots her neck, a stolen gesture from your own twitching fingers. Only the Venetian mirrors saw who passed the cloth. Blink, it's tucked into Lord What's-His-Cuff's sash. Blink again, now tucked into a page's grubby sleeve. Historians still argue whether Anne Boleyn's embroidered hanky doomed George Boleyn, or if he'd just forgotten to starch his ruff. Your pinky grazes a damp spot on your bodice. The linen's ghost lingers. Someone's breath hitches behind you, half cough, half swallowed thanks. Court etiquette band, handing items directly to superiors. Hence, the whole quietly drop it at their feet charade. You'd laugh if the dance master's glare wasn't fossilizing your shoulder blades. A droplet escapes your hairline. maps a snail's path toward your collarbone. The linen flashes, catches it mid-descent. This time you glimpse frayed edges, a servant's rag, not lady's finery, kitchen maids stitched hidden symbols into laundry, a cabbage for gossip, a peapod for secrets. Too bad this one's plain. Unraveling the mystery would beat rehearsing this cursed galliard. Your partner's pulse thunders where his thumb rests on your wrist. His cuff sports a fresh damp patch, handkerchief confetti. Louis XIV's mistresses used hankies perfumed with ambergris to mark their lovers, subtle as a trebuchet. This dabbing brigade's got finesse, and a serious overstock of linens. The violinist mops his forehead with his sleeve. The cloth that blessed your elbow now soaks up fiddle sweat. So much for courtly hygiene. A 14th century nun's diary claimed Satan hoarded unwashed handkerchiefs, fabric first, souls later. You side-eye the violinist, an inch left. Moths orbit the chandelier one kamikazes into a candle. Its shadow twin falls onto the abandoned linen below, a tiny funeral shroud. Mary Queen of Scots sewed cipher codes into her handkerchief hems. This one's only legacy, catching soprano droplets from a second-rate courant. The dance master's cane halts the music. All movement snaps to ice. A linen square flutters downward, lands between Lady Plum Cheeks and the bishop's nephew. They lock eyes, a silent duel over who'll stoop first. Renaissance manners required men to retrieve dropped items, unless the dropper was a known pickpocket. Fatigue turns your snort into an undignified wheeze. 20 necks swivel, linens hastily pocketed. Queen Elizabeth fined courtiers for unlicensed lace on hankies. Maybe she just hated competition for her ruff's grandeur. Your nose itches. You pray for another phantom linen raid. A servant emerges, basket piled with fresh squares. They vanish like Pentecostal bread rolls. One brushes your ankle. You kick it toward the flautist. Medieval hospitals used linen bandages dyed with saints' images. Though you trade 10 saintly rags for one dry shift. The mirrors catch it all cloth passed hand to hand like contraband. Reflection 12's twin swaps linens mid-bow. A sleight of hand, even a cut purse would applaud. Palace laundresses burned sheets after plague deaths. You make a note to dunk your face in lavender later. Moonlight bleaches the last linen ghostly. Stillness finally shatters as the lutes restart. Your partner's palm meets yours, slightly drier than before. Somewhere, a drenched hanky drips onto the floor, plotting its next move. Gray light bleeds through the shutters, thin as watered milk. Your bones hum with the night's labor, ankles swollen, inside kid leather slippers. Dawn rehearsals were mandatory in Louis XIV's court. Sunrise revealing misaligned formations. The master grips his cane, a trembling leaf where oak once stood. A page scatters something pale across the floor, eggshell grit crunching underfoot. Musicians slump against the minstrel's gallery. A lute snores against a violinist's shoulder. cold nips your bare collarbone. You half wish for yesterday's sweat-soaked linens. Tudor servants swore the hour before dawn stole breath. From still sleeping lungs, your heaving ribs agree. The master's once more comes out frayed, a seam splitting at the thread. You count 17 flaws in his posture, hips tilted, left elbow drooping. Historians still argue whether Pradon drills honed precision or simply broke rebellious nobles through exhaustion. His cane taps, wood chipping against stone. Someone's stomach growls a fourth octave G sharp. A dwarfish shadow flits along the wall. A scullion smuggling bread rolls in her apron. Renaissance dancers tucked nettle leaves in their shoes to stay alert. Your blister says pass. The violinist rubs his eyes, leaving a soot streak like a child's war paint. Your partner sways, steadies himself on your shoulder. His pomander reeks of rotting cloves, 17th century air freshener gone feral. Anne of Austria's ladies danced with lead-sewn hems to perfect their glide. You'd settle for not face-planting. The mirrors lie kinder now, dawn's blush, softening your 20 fractured selves. Reflection, 8's nose bleeds. She wipes it on her sleeve like a tavern regular. A 1492 manor inventory listed 6 handkerchiefs lost to mornin' dances. Tonight's casualties triple that. Shutters creak wider. The master freezes mid-rebuke. Gray leaches the gold from sconces, the rouge from cheeks, the pretense from faces. 5 a.m., sunlight the ultimate critic. No candlelit mercy here. Venetian dance tutors charged double for dawn sessions, claiming the light revealed sins of the heel. Your ribs ache where the linen ghost dabbed you hours ago. The missing handkerchief surfaces, wadded in a cobweb's embrace high in the rafters. Medieval laundresses whispered that cloths soaked in first light cured warts and bad court marriages. The dance master's throat works, no sound emerges. His wig sits askew, revealing moth-eaten velvet beneath. A servant bumps a mop bucket. The clang shatters the stalemate. Once more he croaks to the lutenist. The brooms, the wilting potted myrtle. Boots scuff outside, the Duke's guards changing shifts. Your little parade has an audience now, yawn-stretched mouths pressed to door cracks. 16th century Iberian dance manuals warned against performing for unpaid claqueurs. Too late for that. The missing violinist returns reeking of spirits and shame. His bow screeches a B-flat banshee wail. You envy his exit and the flask in his doublet. Florentine dance masters prescribed wine for timid pupils, though never this much. Your hips pivot, the final figure's poison. Left foot right, spin hold. The chandelier's last candle drowns in wax. Its death rattle ticks like a muffled metronome. Mary Stuart's guards reported her pacing cell floors to imagined galliards. You finally understand why. Dawn wins. The master's cane clatters, a sound like bones dropped on marble. He doesn't bar the windows this time, or maybe he forgets. City bells toll matins, smudging the music's corpse into silence. Someone vomits discreetly behind a tapestry. You limp toward the exit, past the eggshell battlefield, the snoring lute, the master's still twitching fingers. His whispered once more follows you into the corridor, a half-mad lullaby. Historians will call this dedication. You call it surviving. Cold air licks your nape as the corridor swallows you, its vaulted ceiling swallowing sound like a stone gullet. Bows curve like question marks in the gloom, a dozen strangers retreating into shadows. Tudor dance troupes often wore identical masks to blur rivalries, but this anonymity feels earned, not staged. Your left slipper surrenders a pebble eggshell grit from that final cursed figure. A page scurries past balancing empty ewers, their necks clinking a dissonant carillon. Someone's abandoned sash pools on a stool silk, bleeding from vermilion to exhausted pink. 16th century grooms allegedly sprinkled lavender oil on palace thresholds to calm frayed nerves. You smell only mildew and humiliated pride. Your kneecaps throb in time with receding footsteps. That red-haired boy from the trio falters, steps back, dissolves into a tapestry's foliage. Renaissance choreographers debated whether exits should face east for luck tonight. Everyone just flees north. A draft carries laughter from the scullery, sharp and alive, against your group's sepulchral hush. You pass the linen ghost's alcove, its mended sheet now veiling a broomstack. Historians still argue whether Anne Boleyn's dancers exchanged names, or if secrecy thickened the court's golden soup. Moonlight stripes a row of cloaks, all gray as the master's final surrender. Your fingers brush a tapestry's edge, depicting some long-dead Duke mid-hunt. The hound's embroidered eyes follow you. Or maybe you're just that starved for acknowledgement. 3 nuns shuffle past, their rosaries hissing against wool. One pauses, offers a pair wrapped in homespun, medieval parting gifts, often held hidden thorns to prick remembrance. You bite anyway. Fruit flesh dissolves into grainy sweetness, ambrosia, with a risk of splinters. The redhead reappears, offers his pomander, without meeting your eye. Clove rot has mellowed into something kinder, or exhaustion's numbed your nose. Baroque dancing masters forbade post-rehearsal fraternization, their rulebook silent on silent exchanges. Boots echo ahead, the dance master's tremulous gait. He clutches a ledger to his chest, quill tucked behind an ear like a defeated feather. Versailles, registrars documented every minuet, but tonight's blunders will drown in vellum's forgiving grain. You round a corner, confront a dead end, and your reflection. A mirror's mercury ripples show 20 versions of you, all squinting at the same exit. Tudor servants called these liars' glasses, claiming they showed your soul's true tilt. Yours looks crumpled. A door creaks, revealing the moon-drunk violinist slumped on a chest. His bow arm keeps sawing phantom notes, elbow jerking like a hanged man's twitch. Florentine musicians supposedly played until their hands bled. His fingertips just glisten with peach juice. Your own hands find a banister, splintered wood, snagging threads from your sleeve. Below, the great hall exhales last night's incense and the sour tang of dried wine. 17th century stairs hid messages in their carpentry, nails driven in cross patterns to repel witches. These steps just slope. The pear's core grows heavy in your palm. A passing scullion's shadow stretches thin, snaps your wrist in its silhouette. 37 hours since you last saw a bed, or was it 38? Renaissance physicians warned that prolonged wakefulness summoned humors black as choir robes. They undersold the eyelid tremors. At the courtyard gate, a guard yawns into his halberd. His visor's too low, but you recognize the smirk. Iberian dance captains, paid sentries to report lingering students. This one's clearly working pro bono. Wind riffles your sweat-stiffened collar, carrying a snatch of giggle from the herb garden. Two shadows meld beneath the rosemary. One's sash matches your lost hairpin. Medieval handbooks poisonously advised no moonlight trysts post-Pavane, but rules crumble faster than marchpane. The well's bucket sways when you lean over, showing a crescent moon drowning in black water. A coin glints below. Some romantic fools wish sinking into silt. Georgian dancers dropped silver to seal their skill. You've got blisters instead of bribes. Cobbles bite through your slippers as you turn toward the stables. A cat darts past, its tail brushing your ankle like a final critique. 17 steps later, the gatehouse bell vomits its bleary dawn song. You glance back. The hall's windows stare like cataract-clouded eyes. Someone's still pacing the minstrel gallery, a wobbling silhouette that could be anyone. Anyone. Mud sucks at your heels as the road claims you. Hoofprints from yesterday's carriages now resemble crude lyres or nooses. A lone apple blossom drifts down, its stem rigged like a noiseless drumstick. The last torch sputters out behind you. Your shadow stretches, thins, dissolves into the highway's indifferent gray. By noon, even the blisters will forget your name. The gallery's shadows cling like cobwebs as you ascend, each portrait judging your footfalls. Queen Marguerite's jewels glint despite the dust. A 1537 French inventory lists her owning 72 pearl-encrusted sleeves. Historians still argue whether court painters added extra gems to flatter patrons or hide gravy stains. Your reflection warps in a gilt frame, some duke's painted smirk stretching your face into a carnival mask. A draft stirs the Count of Angoulême's lace collar, moth holes blurring his sneer into something almost kind. Tudor restorers patched canvases with old altar cloths. You spot a crucifixion scene peeking through his doublet. The Lady of Blois clutches a martin draped like a fur stole, its beady, eyes brighter than her own. Florentine nobles believed live ferrets in portraits warded off the evil eye. This one's taxidermy stares a bit too hard. Your elbow brushes a lesser princess. Her rose-pink sleeve smudged by centuries of guilty touches. Restoration ledgers note this hallway hosted disciplinary viewings for clumsy dancers. Endless hours studying ancestors' perfect posture. The attendant's stool still bears groove marks from shackle chains, or maybe that's just woodworm poetry. You mimic the Marchioness d'Aubigny's hand position, her fingers curled, as if holding a quill or a dagger. Moonlight reveals a patch of original pigment. The Duke's stockings were once violent purple, 16th century dyes used fermented mollusk mucus. You fight the urge to sniff the canvas. A spider descends from the rafters. Its shadow merges with the martin's claws. Medici portraitists reportedly incorporated arachnids as tiny signatures. But this one's just hungry. Marguerite's gaze follows you longest, her eyes chipped by some forgotten crisis. Gossip sheets claimed she practiced courtly dances with her elderly pug as a partner. The beast's wheeze kept better time than lutes. You pivot, 10 painted heads tilt as your hem disturbs the dust. Habsburg galleries employed blind guides, so nobles couldn't be visually influenced by predecessors. Tonight, the blindfold's yours. The youngest prince's portrait hangs, crooked his spaniel's eyes, reflecting a window long bricked over. You reach to straighten the frame, freeze. Versailles archives mention a servant executed for touching Anne of Austria's likeness, though rumor insists he'd merely sneezed. Candlelight dies, leaving only dusk seeping through leaded glass. The martin's glass eyes still glow, or perhaps you've stared too long. Tudor nobility believed portraits absorbed fragments of their subjects' souls, which explains why this hall feels overcrowded. Your shadow blends with the Earl of Maine's depicted shadow, both stretching toward the same moonlit door. One step back, two. The painted faces blur into a single weary expression. You realize too late they've been studying you longer than you've studied them. The latch yields with a sigh that could come from the walls, or the woman in the 1610 bridal portrait still waiting for her groom. Cobwebs snag your sleeve as you descend, their silk softer than your abandoned sash. The gallery's breath lingers in your ears, something between a chuckle and a wheeze. Tomorrow's dancers will brush against these same frames, never noticing the Earl's falcon now has your collarbone. The final lock's click echoes like a dropped spoon in an empty chapel. Darkness floods through door cracks. Velvet drapes sigh, relieved to sag after hours of posed perfection. You linger near the hearth's fading glow, its embers crackling Tudor lullabies only ash remembers. In the 15th century, castle stewards sealed halls with 7 locks, though tonight's rusty quartet does the job. Historians still argue whether wrought iron gate motifs warded off spirits or just bored blacksmiths showing off. A draftsman's folly becomes your path, nails hammered sideways by some long-dead apprentice's shaky hand. Your shadow stretches toward the high table, its legs carved with grapevines, strangled by thorns. A servant left one window cracked, night air licks the dregs of mulled wine from flagstones. 17th century cleaning manuals advised scrubbing stone floors with vinegar and crushed rosemary. You wonder who'll scrub the silence come dawn. The minstrel's gallery sways not from breeze, but the memory of bows dragged too slow. That phantom high sea still orbits the rafters, a swallow trapped by stained glass. Someone's forgotten kerchief pools on a bench, monogrammed edges frayed from nervous twisting. Tudor lovers hid tokens in floor gaps as courting rituals. This linen's too pristine to be a sacrifice. You press a palm to the wall, cool limestone hums with decades of misplaced laughter. Restorers found 16th century graffiti beneath the plaster. Beware the Quentin's arm. But tonight, the stones stay mum. 3 beeswax pillars stand guard on the high table, their wicks drowned in molten wax prisons. UV scans revealed Roman coins beneath the east foundation, buried to bless the land. Or maybe some legionnaire just lost his drink money. Your slipper nudges a discarded lyre peg, carved oak worn smooth as a courtier's lie. The last ember pops, a final spark arcing toward the salt-crusted bread trenchers. Medieval diners believed jumping sparks foretold imminent proposals. The lone cinder dies unclaimed. Moonlight pries through shutters, etching a silver gauntlet across the high seat's embroidered cushions. You trace the crest's embroidered hawthorn berries, 12 stitches per fruit, 7 fruits per branch. Perfection even ghosts admire. Faint shuffling echoes from the buttery mice, or a scullion's ghost reliving breakfast chores. Chronicles mention a servant who cooked himself into a meat pie by accident. The tale grows taller each retelling. Your throat tightens not from dust, but the hall's held breath. 647 oak planks make the floor. You counted them thrice during the Alaman's tedium. A tapestry billows, King Alaric's woven sword arm twitching toward his moth-eaten foe. Textile scholars debate whether the piece depicts the siege of Valentia or someone's botched hunting trip. The challenge feels familiar, like deciphering your dance partner's grip during the pavane. Stale rushes crackle underfoot, sweet flag herbs faded to dust-scented nostalgia. Your hand finds the servant's door, its handle polished smooth by generations of invisible palms. 14th century ordinances find stewards for unoiled hinges. But time mocks all edicts. The corridor beyond smells of damp wool and yesterday's leek soup. Somewhere a lute string sighs, though the instrument case has been locked since vespers. You glance back. The hall's emptiness feels deliberate now, like the room exhaled all its occupants and forgot to inhale. Banqueting tables shrink into dollhouse furniture under the vaulted gloom. Historians still argue whether the ceiling's greenman carving winks or squints. Tonight, he does neither. A bat's silhouette flits across the rose window, its wingspan magnified by leaden tracery. Groundskeepers insist the species left centuries ago, but twilight tells different tales. Your sash whispers to the floor, silk pooling like spilled mercury. They'll find it at dawn, rumpled testament to this stolen hour. The last note finally falls, not with a crash, but a shrug. Ripe plums surrender their stems less gracefully. Your fingertips brush the doorframe, one splinter snagging memory. Tomorrow's stewards will sweep away footprints, and the dust will keep its secrets. The final lock's click lingers like a half-remembered hymn. Darkness seeps through cracks with velvet breath. Velvet drapes slump, their stiff elegance dissolved into slackened folds. You hover by the hearth's dying pulse. Each ember's crackle a whispered dirge for forgotten feasts. 17 generations of stewards swore by 7 locks. Yet 4 rusted latches now hold night at bay. The high table's carved grapes twist under your gaze, thorny vines clutching stone like arthritic fingers. Moonlight spills through the cracked window, licking wine stains from flagstones in silvered swaths. Someone's forgotten kerchief lies abandoned, too crisp for Tudor love tokens, too plain for tragedy. Cool limestone hums beneath your palm, a chorus of muffled laughter sealed in mortar. Beeswax pillars weep frozen tears, their light long suffocated by time's indifferent grip. The last spark leaps toward trenchers crusted with salt. Alone, embers doomed courtship. Moonlight carves the high seat's embroidery. Hawthorn berries, stitched with obsessive care, 12 per fruit, 7 per branch. A tapestry shivers, King Alaric's moth-eaten sword arm frozen mid-swing or mid-stumble. You step over rushes turned to brittle ghosts, their herbal sweetness smothered by centuries of dust. The servant's door yields silently, hinges oiled by absence rather than hands. Damp wool and stale leek soup linger, a humble perfume for your retreat. Behind you, the hall contracts, tables shrinking into shadowed miniatures beneath the vault's indifferent gaze. Bats flicker across stained glass, their dance older than the leaded panes framing moonlight. Your sash slides free, a liquid shimmer on flagstones. Tomorrow's mystery for bleary-eyed stewards. A draft murmurs through the minstrel's gallery, carrying the echo of a lute's final sigh. The greenman carving watches, not with a wink or squint, but in weary blink. Your slipper meets the corridor's chill, one splinter left to guard the threshold. Somewhere beyond, dawn rehearses its entrance, a slow blush at the horizon's edge. You release the hall to its hush, let dust settle over whispered secrets and phantom dances. Silence leans close now, not empty, but patient, like a partner's palm resting heavy on yours, guiding you from floorboard creaks and shadow play. Breathe with the stones, slower, deeper, until moonlight blurs to mist, and even the ghosts doze.